don't think it's so. So are you done subbing?
Yes, sir. Finally, we got you on the agenda.
I'm so bad.
What's that?
She was a good she really did do well. We don't know where she came from. Did you guys always come to her phone? You know, this whale came home and I was like, get her. I remember that. I don't remember it. I remember it. I was just thinking, I hesitated in Spanish. I should remember that. I'm not talking about someone who did nothing for an A.
Sorry, it's answer. That's fine. I go to the next one.
Board is in executive session. They're running a little late, but they will be here in just a few moments. So if you can just bear with us for a couple minutes, they will be here shortly.
When it's time for
I doubt it. Doubt it. You're dropping the Amway shots. Yeah.
I went to college.
Oh, well, the brochure. Yeah, yeah. This is on the brochure.
Good evening. The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived and passed. Apologies for our tardiness. Thank you all for your patience. I call to order this legislative meeting of the Woodland Hills School Board. Ms. Pule, will you call the roll?
Mr. Graves? Here. Mrs. Ellickson? Present. Mr. Hanchett?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Curry?
Here.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Here.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Here.
Mr. Belmont?
Here.
Ms. Glasser?
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You could please remain standing for just one moment. We'd like to observe a moment of silence for Mr. Stephen Drake. He was a volunteer as assisting us here at Woodland Hills High School and died tragically. And please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from the agenda and legislative meetings from April?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Belmont. Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, Ms. Pule, will you call the vote? Motion carries unanimously. The board did meet in executive session this evening to discuss legal and personnel matters. Mr. Johnson, are there any announcements?
Yeah, just a couple, Ms. Glasser. Wanted to acknowledge the work at the high school guidance and college and career access center. Today, the building passed $4.5 million in scholarships for the current school year to graduating seniors from the high school, and that's quite an accomplishment. I also want to remind folks that there is a meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the Media Center at the high school. The members of the Woodland Hills Commission on Youth Development will be meeting with members of the board to discuss the recently released report. Again, that's at 5 p.m. tomorrow at the high school. Finally, I do want to congratulate Lisa Silverman and her class, her group, the Gay Straight Alliance at Woodland Hills High School. They recently received the Allegheny County Human Relations Diversity Award for their T-shirt campaign, and we want to congratulate them on that great achievement. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any announcements?
Announce Hugs on Friday. The driving down
Thank
at
you.
Wilkins, 5
Right.
to 9. Everyone can stop in and drive a Chrysler Pacifica. Hugs will get $10. Local support.
There we go. Yeah.
Just like to let everybody know that the 11th annual Race for Grace occurred in Irwin last month. That race was started by 3 Woodland Hills seniors, their senior year of 2008, and with the help of their classmates pulled off the inaugural race. And since then, between proceeds raised during the races and the Reflections of Grace Foundation, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised to seek a cure for pediatric brain cancer. All started right here in 2000.
That's great. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move to student speakers. Didn't have a chance to see if they're here.
No students.
No student speakers this evening. Okay. Which will move us to presentations, of which we have a number. Dr. Jackson, Sergeant Vallis, I believe that's you first. Okay.
I don't know where to start with Sergeant Pedro Valles. I met him about maybe 3.5 years ago down at the Rankin Promise School. I shaved last week, and now the kids truly believe that I am his father and he's my son. We're having a big laugh down there, right? About, us looking like twins, basically. But anyway, when I walked into the school for a number of days, we were having some serious bus problems. I mean, really serious. Where the students were, the riotous was tremendous, and parents were calling, and we had to come up with a solution for this. And we put our heads together, and basically he said to me, "You ride it bus in the morning, and I'll ride it in the afternoon." So I thought, well, we'll try to get it done, get things in order. Basically, that's what happened. And at that point in time, too, it saved the district like $40,000 because they didn't have to bring in another bus. But as time went on, Sergeant Velez, even with the students down at Rankin Promise School, he is a unique person. I mean, kids would come to him actually for counseling, and that's really rare for high school kids to even go up to a policeman, period. But I mean, they would come to him, they would come to me and say, "Can we talk to Sergeant Velez?" And I'm like, "Sure." And they would talk to him, and I mean, he would actually counsel the students that were really having some problems. And this is one of the things that led me to different ideas of, you really have to sit down and talk with the kids. And down at the Rankin Promise School, we're down there we're trying to create a school of not of punishment, but a school of, how can I say, rehabilitation. So the students, when they come down and they leave, they should come back, fulfilled and really wanting to learn. The situation on the bus that happened with Sergeant Velez goes to show you how fast he reacts to things and how he keeps his eye on things that occur with the students. What happened on the bus, in fact, we're going to show a video, and I'm going to let Sergeant Velez talk about it, but I'm going to give you a brief. What happened was the kid was choking on a piece of candy. Started to faint. Sergeant Velez reacted. Put the kid in a Heimlich maneuver, and the kid coughed up what was lodged in his mouth. So, can they show the video? And maybe you can, Sergeant Velez can talk about. Here it is, Sarge.
Steve's on it.
Let me see. Okay, that's the gentleman up front with the hood on. You can see he's choking. He had swallowed a jawbreaker. I don't know if you see him, the first kid did in the front. I'm in the back. No one's really recognizing him. Continuing to choke, but he's choking silently. I'm all the way in the back of the bus where I normally sit so I can keep an eye on everybody. Nobody's really bringing it to our attention until the young gentleman right there starts to point at him across from him. That's when I ushered down. He's a pretty tall kid, so I had to kind of reach over. There wasn't a lot of room. So then at that point, I grabbed him around the stomach, kind of put my fist in his stomach real hard, and did the Heimlich maneuver. Kind of chokes me up because it's a kid. But if you see in my hand, the jawbreaker, that came out. It was pretty scary. If you really saw it, he kind of passed out just as I grabbed him. So I don't know how, and this happened about 2 months ago. And I really didn't want it put out. I was trying to keep it from going out, but what I wanted to do was use this as a learning tool. Maybe we can teach the kids that, they should be standing up when something like that happens and showing everybody. He choked for a real long period there. And that's the reason why. And at this point, I'm telling everybody else, because they gave out jawbreakers. If anyone else has them, all of a sudden, like 4 came down the aisle. They spit them right out, and they just rolled down the aisle, and then but that's it. But that's pretty much what happened.
this is one of the many things that Sergeant Valdez does for the students. I mean, like I said before, they might go through a panic mode of a situation where they might have a confrontation with another student, and the next thing you know, they're blazing saddles, and Sergeant Valdez talks to them, and they go back calm as if nothing ever happened. Anyway, on behalf of Woodland Hills School District, the certificate of heroism is presented to Sergeant Valdez from the Rankin Police Bureau Department. And I personally, I'm choked up by this guy because we're like brothers. You know, I'm a lot older than him, but, you know, I mean, you know, I really look up to him on his heroism and for everything he does. And like I said, he is truly an outstanding citizen, and his job, he goes way beyond compared to what I have seen any professional police officer do. And the other thing, too, is one day I was getting ready for an informal hearing, and I was talking to the secretary, and Sergeant Valdez was there, and he said to me, "Oh, you better make sure you do a manifestation on that child." You know, and I'm thinking in my head, he's probably the only police officer that really knows school law. You know, because I'm so amazed that I just can't, there's not enough words for him. He's an all-around person, and I want to thank you very much. And his son, Liam, and this is his son, Liam, and he goes to Wilkins. Liam in there?
Yeah, you want to sweetheart.
Just like you.
I know. Look, we got like triplets right now. Ready? 1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, too much. I gotta go. I'm sorry. I'm actually working. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And next up, we have Mrs. Pearson from the Academy to talk about the National Geographic Challenge.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you again. So this year, National Geographic started something we call the Geo Challenge, and we just can't seem to stay away from good learning opportunities, so we decided to accept it. Real quickly, the Geo Challenge is offered to students in 5th through 8th grade. They're asked to work as a team to solve a world problem that gets them to things like National Geographic explorers. They're asked to collaborate, to communicate, to develop models, to make maps, and to present all that in a video format for a preliminary round and then possible advancement to a national championship. So I believe there were 900 schools in the United States that had the opportunity to participate, or were invited to participate. 70 of them advanced to regional finals in 6 states, including California, Colorado, Mississippi, Illinois, Texas, and Pennsylvania. So in April, 2 of our Woodland Hills Academy teams advanced, and they're in 5th grade, advanced to the regional final in Harrisburg with teams from New York and New Jersey and our own state. And pleased to say that they won the national championship and also took an award, which I like to call just as high as an award, which is a Best Teamwork Award. So both teams are here to present to you what they presented to the people from National Geographic and people from the State Board of Education in all 3 states and a bunch of other judges like that. They did a pretty awesome job. And before they finish, we also have another team here who has advanced to the Connect State STEM Design Championship again, and they're competing this Friday. So when they're all finished, Mr. Muter has a little video, not yet, I told him my cue, that they made. They're packed and ready to go, so their things aren't here, but they have a little video to show you about what they're doing. So can I have the band team first? Some of you have seen this. Your parents did for the first time and you haven't, and you want to get a look, you might want to move up here because you're going to present in this direction, I think. That's probably the best that you can present. But yeah, so if you're a parent who hasn't seen this and want to come over here, that's great. Sorry.
And as you guys are speaking, if you could use the microphone that's there, that would be great.
Lena, grab it.
If they're already there. You have everything.
Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Ow! My head hurts. I can't even think.
Well, imagine how the beluga whales are feeling.
Ow! My head hurts. All this oil and gas drilling is messing up my echolocation. I can't migrate. Wow. I had no idea oil and gas drilling affected beluga whales so much. We have to do something about this.
But first, we should learn a little bit more about beluga whales, their migration, and oil racing. Let's hear from some Arctic marine biologists.
The beluga whale, or Delphinepterus lucus, can grow to be up to 22 feet long and weigh 1.5 tons. Belugas, like most whales, are at the top of the food chain. This means that if they were to go extinct, the entire Arctic food chain would be affected.
Beluga whales live in the Arctic Ocean. In autumn, they migrate from their summer homes, which are green on this map, to their winter homes, which are purple.
Beluga whales migrate to escape the growing ice packs. Moving from the ice packs allows them to surface to breathe and access food.
Sadly, some things impede the beluga's migration. Noise from drills and chips throws off their echolocation, making it harder for them to stay with their pod and to find food. As you can see on the map, drilling locations and beluga whale areas often overlap.
When people drill for oil and natural gas in the ocean, they start by sending down an exploratory drill. Since most oil spots aren't directly on the ocean floor, they have to dig around a bit.
The drill bit grinds to the earth, creating a loud sound that impedes the beluga's migration.
Thanks, guys.
I wonder how we can help.
I know. What if we put soundproof tube around the drills?
What materials will we use?
Styrofoam is a good soundproof material, and it can withstand the ocean's currents.
Oh, that's genius. Let's think more.
Please hurry. My head hurts.
BAM! That stands for Beluga's Aid to Migration. As you can see in the cutaway, there are 2 layers of styrofoam to insulate the drill. What surrounds the styrofoam is a metal tube to protect the styrofoam from the ocean's currents and any marine species who may mistake it for food.
They need to insulate the tube because the friction against the ocean floor messes up my echolocation. Although BAM will help, it would be better if ocean drilling was stopped altogether. Gasoline, lipstick, plastic, and thousands of other items are made using oil.
We use gas to heat our homes and to cook our food. And since oil and gas are fossil fuels, they give off greenhouse gases when they are burned.
Plus, if there was an oil spill, marine species and humans could get diseases like cancer and die.
Right now, the ozone layer is being weakened by the fight between itself and greenhouse gases. We can stop this if we work together to create more reliable, alternative energy sources. Solar, wind, and kinetic energy can all be used to power. Solar, wind, and kinetic energy can all be used to power homes, or you could ride a bike or take public transportation to work every day. Solar thermal energy can also be used to heat homes.
You can start today.
by doing something as simple as recycling the water bottle you're drinking from instead of throwing it away.
Using alternative energy sources will help to reduce climate change and preserve the Arctic ecosystem.
We can stop this today. You can help today and preserve the Arctic ecosystem. BAM!
Ready? Ready? One. Very nice.
Absolutely, yeah. Totally. Water bottles.
Migration is a theme.
Do you think our water bottles will do that, wouldn't it?
But yes, water bottles are heavy on Hey, Kathy.
Do you want to use
these to hold them up? Instead, do you need more room up there? Well, just take the first off.
Yeah.
They normally do this from a sitting position, so they're getting ready.
All right. Whenever you're ready, ladies.
I'm Lena Loebscher.
I'm Isabel Wilson.
I'm Isabella Caldwell. I'm Lila Nestica.
I'm Elizabeth.
We are from the Woodland Hills Academy.
We are in 5th grade.
Hello, we are zoologists from Africa. We have been studying the migratory patterns of the Mali elephants and obstacles to their migration.
Studies show that elephant populations have decreased almost a third between 2007 to 2014. Elephant populations continue to decline about 8% per year.
Other zoologists like us are worrying because there are only around 253 Mali elephants left in Africa. If we don't do something now, they might become extinct.
We would like to welcome Ella the elephant. She lives in Mali.
We are going to ask you some questions about why Mali elephants migrate.
Hello, Ella. Why do Mali elephants migrate?
We migrate to find food and water.
What's your biggest threat when you migrate?
Poachers. They're killing my friends and family for their ivory. Ivory is used in many things. Some of those things are billiard balls, airplane parts, chess pieces, jewelry, piano tiles, and many more. Some people have tusks hanging in their home to show wealth. I think it would be better to show wealth by donating to us elephants.
I agree. If you do want to help Ella and her friends and family, I recommend the Wild Foundation. The money will go to the Mali Elephant Project.
The Mali Elephant Project is working to stop poaching.
Ella, what's your opinion on poaching?
I think something needs to happen. People need to save us.
Well, you're in luck because we have created STOP.
STOP stands for Synthetic Tusk Operation Pill.
The pill has harmless purple dye inside of it, so when an elephant ingests the pill, their tusk will turn purple and into a synthetic material that is not valuable.
When the poachers see the purple tusk, they will believe something is wrong with the tusks, and the tusks will have no value. Therefore, the poachers won't kill the elephants.
Once a female elephant has taken STOP, when she's a baby, the baby will automatically have purple tusks.
The pill will be given to the mature elephants as they migrate through the Sahel Reserve.
This is what the elephant will look like after it takes the pill.
Just because elephants will take our pill STOP doesn't mean we don't need your help.
To stop poaching as a whole, we need you to stop buying things that contain ivory.
If people don't buy products made from ivory, people won't poach the elephants. I agree. We need everyone to help stop poaching.
Thank you so much for letting us interview you.
Wow, I want to take a stop before I go back to Mali.
That's a great idea. Why don't you go take one right now?
While Ella is taking stock, let's look at the map of the Mali elephant migratory patterns.
The legend explains all the symbols on the map.
Above that is a map of Africa that shows where Mali is.
The blue shows where water is. The red indicates where the elephants migrate. There are elephant symbols on the red lines. The black lines show country borders.
The green is the Sahel Reserve border. The P stands for where the poachers poach the elephants, and the stop pill symbol stands for where the pill will be given.
In the dry season, elephants need access to water to survive.
The elephants will move to the northern part of the elephant range in between small lakes. They move between Adora, Gassi, and Mandora. Those lakes have water all year round.
They are priority areas.
Look at my purple tusks.
Now you're safe from poachers.
Change the world and don't buy products made from ivory.
Be empowered to help stop the poaching of the Mali elephants. Thank you.
While they're getting their picture taken, I do need to tell you that they did receive a monetary prize in Harrisburg, a total of $250, and both teams donated parts of their money to, the name of the organization was, please tell me, Lena.
The Wild Foundation.
The Wild Foundation for the elephants and to the National Wildlife Foundation for the beluga whales. So they paid it back to their migratory species.
You guys ready? One. Aw. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Just, yeah, go ahead and stand right from those chairs. All right, so this is the Connect STEM design team that's going to Harrisburg on Friday to compete in the state championships at that event. Mr. Buter, it's time for the video. I'll let them introduce themselves real quickly, and then you can show us the video.
I'm Lena.
I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Cameron.
I'm Ethan.
We're in 5th grade.
Academy.
Yeah.
Enjoy. They do have a video. Mr. Buter, it's time to
Help
show
make
the
the
video.
air cleaner
There it is.
because
Play back
there
there.
won't be as much burning of fossil fuels. The treadmill appeals to the adults and the trampoline appeals to the children.
It is.
Quickly.
My name is Lizzie. We are in the 5th grade at the Woodland Academy. We are competing in the Connect STEM Design Challenge State Championship in Harrisburg on Friday.
For this challenge, we have been asked to create a new household product that makes the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. To meet this challenge, we have created HELP. That stands for Helping Earth with Leg Power.
HELP includes 2 pieces of exercise equipment which will help power the home. The treadmill has kinetic treads, and the trampoline has kinetic tiles. The lights, the fan, and the exercise room are powered by the stored kinetic energy that's used to power the house. Electricity is made by burning fossil fuels, which are coal, natural gas, and oil. If we use up all of fossil fuels, there will be none for the future. So we need to find more sources of energy. HELP will eliminate the need to burn fossil fuels, which will help prevent global warming.
HELP will aid in reducing climate change. HELP will make the air cleaner because there won't be as much burning of fossil fuels. The treadmill appeals to the adults, and the trampoline appeals to the children.
That's it. So thank you very much. because they've helped in so many ways that I can't even name them all. So thank you very much to all of you for doing everything that you've done to help them get to where they are. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And good luck this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. Let everybody get some job.
I just want to say on a personal note, it's very nice, thank you for the students for coming here, and also for the unsung heroes, for the teachers, for creating these opportunities for our Woodland Hill students. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that will move us on to Mr. Kennedy. Did I mispronounce that?
That's
I'm sorry. I understand it's Kennedy? Is that Kennedy? Okay, I apologize. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening to each and every one of you. My name is Dr. Darrell Kennedy, and I am the founder of the Life Mill Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math Academy. And my wife, who is passing out those items, Reverend Talita Kennedy, is our co-founder. And we wanted to come and introduce ourselves to you. We met with the superintendent about 6 weeks ago. Had a very productive meeting of introduction, and I wanted to come to you on tonight to talk to you a little bit about how we feel that we can help with wraparound services for this entire community. Our mission for life is to prepare all male scholars for college success and career readiness, but we will also serve as a catalyst to increase the presence of African American males in the STEM pipeline. Pittsburgh has done a great job of reinventing itself from the Rust Belt Steel City now to eds and meds and technology and education. But African American males in particular are lagging behind throughout the system, not just in Pittsburgh, but all over the United States of America and abroad. And we wanted to be able to provide an opportunity to help the students to be prepared for the 21st century, the jobs. And what I want to really talk about in the last page on the inside is called the Village of Life. What we are doing, we are developing partnerships around this entire region. With me tonight, we have members of our school board. Some of them are current teachers. One is a retired college president. Another is a retired principal. We have medical doctors who are with us tonight who represent the journey to medicine, which some of your students participate in. Also, we have our developer. So we have a wide range of people who are helping us to develop this village. Within the village, we're going to have a science center and technology makerspace. We're going to have a health and wellness pavilion. What I love about this is that we're going to be able to provide mentors for the students and also to provide services for their families. However, it's not just for the Life Mill STEAM Academy. It will also be for the Woodland Hills students as well as their families and their parents. We also are going to increase the tax base in this area, which also in turn then will benefit you. We also are going to have a YMCA. We have a long word here, Family Recreational Center. We're going to have a state-of-the-art public library that will be open for the entire community with state-of-the-art equipment. We're going to have a performing arts center that will seat no less than 3,000 persons, where you can have your graduations, you can have your proms and other events there. We're going to have a center for spiritual enrichment. We're going to have a community engagement center. We are in talks with the University of Pittsburgh as we speak, as well as Carnegie Mellon University to have a university education and research complex. along with a sportsplex and corporate offices. With the corporate offices, your students will be able to come and have executive experience on the campus, that they can have internships right there so that they can learn how to move to the next level, not just in school, but beyond and into their careers. What we wanted to do is to introduce ourselves to you as a partner to be able to come and provide wraparound services, not only for our students and their families, but also for your students and their families. We believe that this can be a win-win situation for all of us. We are going to house the school in the Wilkins Township area, and we project to start in the year of 2020. Eventually, over a 10-year period, the school will ramp up to a K-12 academy, but we're going to begin with 6th and 7th grade in 2020 as our projected start. But we wanted to come tonight to introduce ourselves to you, certainly to answer any questions that you may have. Certainly on day one, all of the activities that I listed to you in the Village of Life would not take place on day one. But we feel that over a 3 to 4 year period, we'll be able to ramp up to all of these services.
I'd just like to, first of all, thank Reverend Kennedy, because he was here last month, and it was through my neglect that he didn't get on the agenda, but he was very gracious about it and came back this month, so I want to thank you for that. And the other thing I want to say is, I get to meet with a lot of organizations that are looking to do a charter school, and I've never had as pleasant a one as I had with Mr. Kennedy and his team. So while normally charters are something, as we know, controversial for public schools, I think the idea that Reverend Kennedy and his team have here is for something that really could benefit, as he says, not only the kids that would attend there, but also our students as well. So it probably won't be in my time when that comes up for consideration, but when it does, I certainly think it's worth a really positive consideration by the board, because I think this will be a real great development, especially because of its devotion to getting young African American men into that STEM pipeline, because that is something where we have a real need. We do our best. We need more help with it, and this is what they'll be geared towards completely. And I think that in and of itself justifies it happening. So good luck and congratulations, and hope I get to see it someday.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a second brochure there to talk about the Carnegie Science Center. We're doing a program right now, 2 Saturdays a month, and several of your students from Woodland Hills School District are participating in that on the Carnegie Science Center campus 2 times a month. So thank you very much for having us on tonight.
Any other questions for Dr. Kennedy? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that brings us to Dr. Dorsey from the University of Pittsburgh.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So my name is Dr. Dana Thompson Dorsey. I'm an associate professor at the University of Pittsburgh in the School of Education, and I am the associate director for the Center for Urban Education. About 2 months ago, I met with Superintendent Johnson and Assistant Superintendent Lentz about some of the challenges that have been occurring in the district and how they may be addressed properly, maybe through a training and coaching program around implicit bias. We discussed how in the past there has been some trainings here and there that have taken place, but then that one and done doesn't seem to work. And that makes sense, since implicit bias is something that occurs on a regular basis, and if you're not constantly debiasing, that those unconscious biases will continue to creep up. So we discussed what the center could possibly do in working with the Woodland Hills School District, or partnering with the Woodland Hills School District. And I've talked to Alicia several times, along with one of my colleagues, Erica Gold-Kestenberg, who couldn't be here. And we talked about what we could do, particularly with working alongside some of our colleagues who are here, particularly Dr. Jay Hughley, who's working in an intermediate school, and also Ming Tae, who works at the Motivation Center at the University of Pittsburgh in the School of Education. So what we discussed specifically was using some of the work that they've already done and doing a little bit of assessment on our own in these last few weeks of school and doing some observations in different classrooms and schools, whether they would be throughout the school district or in particular schools. And then designing over the summer a training program, a year-long training program that would actually involve me and a few other faculty members who work in the Center for Urban Education, some of which who are content specialists, but who also specifically focus on culturally responsive education, who focus on that from a leadership perspective, from a law and policy perspective, that would be me. And then those who actually focus specifically on particular content areas such as math, English language arts, and social studies. We also have a few outside consultants we will work with who also have these particular specialties. And so what that would basically involve is, the training program hasn't been designed yet, but how we would envision it is that at least once or twice a week, you would have faculty members and or consultants in the schools working alongside teachers, basically being there in a capacity to observe, but also to do on-the-spot training. With unconscious bias or implicit bias, you may not recognize how you may interact with students. And it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, implicit bias affects us all because we're affected by particular images that we take in on a daily basis and have been taken in all our lives. So part of that training comes down to, with debiasing, comes down to having other people who are basically on the outside doing observations of particular interactions. But also in doing that and helping to debias would also be creating particular curricula that is also more culturally responsive to students. And we can't do that without knowing what type of curriculum you use, what may be beneficial to the students that are in the class. So one of the things we also like to do is really get to know students, their parents, and the community. So in this process of trainings, some of which, like as I mentioned, once or twice a week we would be in here doing trainings, or on-the-spot trainings if necessary, but then definitely twice a month doing more organized type of professional development with teachers. We also would like to include parents and community in those particular trainings so that they, for transparency purposes, know what's going on, but also so that parents, teachers, staff, administrators can really get a chance to know each other. Part of debiasing is knowing who the other person is. Understanding people's culture, understanding people's background, learning about them, and learning who they are. So a big part of this is very interpersonal and very introspective. So that would be the kind of work we would do while also working on particular content with students around math, English language arts, science, and social studies, and also helping to work with particular policies or in terms of revising certain policies that may be they have some bias built into them that you may not recognize. And so that's all. Questions?
Question? David, you spoke about a year-long training. What does that look like with it? And is that, how would the impact would that be on classrooms? Mm-hmm. Is it somebody observing? How many people will you have? What classes do you target? How do you devise that training, and how do you implement that throughout the course of a year?
So one of the things we would do initially is the first probably month of school would be a series of observations to get a feel for the classes, the classrooms, the class sizes. At any particular time, there wouldn't be a lot of people in the room if that's what you're concerned about. It would mainly be observations, but probably would be 1 or 2 people at a time. It would also be based on what we're seeing and based on what your specific needs are, but what you ask for. You may ask for a particular person who is specialized in math to come in and observe a particular algebra or geometry or, general math class, because there has been some issues the students have been having with the teacher, or that particular class may have a particular achievement gap that concerns you. So you may want that particular person to come in that week several times. So it wouldn't be where we would have a set schedule in terms of who's coming in, even though in order obviously to come up with the hours and budget, I had to figure out on average how many people would be in a building at any given time, or buildings, because it wouldn't be, people would be spread out across the buildings. It wouldn't be in just one particular building, but it would be based on what the particular needs are, based on what we observed and based on what you've observed or have heard from particular teachers, students, parents, staff.
Okay, so if you're going, so we have K through 12, are you targeting a certain grade, or are you targeting, how are you?
Okay, so once again, that would depend on if you wanted something that was full district or in particular
I'm just trying to
schools.
figure out how it would be disseminated throughout the whole district, where everyone gets touched by the training. Therefore, because I don't see the direct impact if we're only doing like several classrooms, and you have grades moving up, and you have, you have like over 3,000 students. How are we impacting each teacher, administrator on the training to the point where it's effective throughout the district?
Well, to be honest with you, since one of the concerns was cost, we did really limit how many people we would use at one particular time. So if this was a situation where you want to ramp up, as we understand it, there is a particular focus or need in the junior and senior high school. So that where will be most of the resources would be. But if you wanted each teacher in each school to be observed and touched in some kind of way, then we can add more people, because we definitely have a lot of different faculty as well as outside consultants that we deal with on a regular basis and other work that we do in school districts. But in order to try to keep costs down and also to see what may be most effective without being disruptive to the classroom experience and the school experience for students and teachers, we were trying to start small.
Okay.
Can you go next? So, sort of a segue to that comment as being disruptive, I wanted to clarify how often our workers would be intervening. Say if they're seeing a bias in action, would they literally stop and say,
no,
just writing it down, and then we come back and talk about that in a training?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Fully
absolutely.
Observations.
And it wouldn't be, we wouldn't wait, yes. So we wouldn't wait until, because I mentioned like twice a month there would be a more formal training. We would not wait for that. Okay. So in doing the observations and taking notes, we would wait till the end of a class period. Maybe even the end of the day. It would really depend on the circumstance, particularly if we are observing a particular interaction with a student with a particular teacher. We may observe another class with that teacher to see if that's a similar interaction we see with other students or certain students. And when I say interaction, I'm not saying something that's harmful in terms of hollering at the student. Something even as much as ignoring students, not paying attention to students is also harmful. So we would take note to see if this is something that's more a common practice of a particular teacher, or is it when a particular, just an instance that happened to occur. And then we would determine the best way to address that. And what training, what coaching would be appropriate for that instance.
Further questions? So, what districts have you done this in, and how do you evaluate success, especially with only in 1 year?
Right.
Is this more like a 5-year project?
So, I will say that in terms of a year-long project, I have not personally done this myself for a whole year. I've been at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh, but I moved back to Pittsburgh for this position last summer. But I did this work when I was at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in Chapel Hill school districts and in Durham Public Schools in Durham, North Carolina. But it was not for a year. I would do trainings, particularly training equity teams over a year-long period, and then they would move forth in their district and continue the work. But in terms of doing it, district-wide per school, I have not done. And I don't know if any of my colleagues have done that, but we have done similar type of work, or we are doing similar type of work in schools in Pittsburgh Public Schools. But it has not been a year-long.
I think in a number of things you're going to hear about in the coming meetings, and this really just being the start, you're probably going to be asked to approve things that don't have a lot of precedent, because we really are doing things that nobody has done before, and I think in a way that's the exciting part about it. We recognize the unique character of the issues that have taken place here and are still with us at Woodland Hills, and they require unique approaches that don't have a kind of a boilerplate answer to them, and that's what Dr. Thompson and folks from Center for Urban Education have brought to us. So, I would refer back to the conversation we were all having a little before the meeting began, and that question arose is about what are we going to offer to the staff in order to help them deal with this. Well, this is the answer. This is what it'll be, and it is new, and there haven't been many places, if any places, where it's been done. To me, that's kind of the exciting part about it, is it's a chance to do the right thing the right way, at the right place and right time. So,
you're exactly right. The research on implicit bias, it comes from social psychology. It's very popular and has been highly researched in criminal justice. And as I mentioned, psychological types of venues. So juries and jury selections are oftentimes where you'll hear it most commonly used in terms of creating unconscious bias or type of programs to address those issues, like with jury selections. But education, a place where everyone has experience, right? Everybody goes through an education system at some point in their life. Particularly the K-12 system, which are the most formative years for young people. There is little to none in terms of actual programs that school districts have implemented to try to address this. So there's also very little research on it. Most of the research that I have done has been, because I have the legal background, has been from that. And then, of course, a lot of the other work that I have begun to do in education over the years and seeing how to create such programs. Now, the center has done a ton of work around culturally responsive education. That's what we're probably known for the most. So in terms of working with schools and school districts on that and helping with creating curriculum and lesson plans for teachers in different content areas on those issues, we got you. On this, we will all be in this together and following through in terms of just our expertise and background that we have. In just being able to observe some of that implicit type of work. I teach classes on it, but actually creating a year-long training program and seeing it follow through and saying that I can give you results of how that would turn out, I can't say I've done that. Not as of yet.
Not as yet. Next year this time.
Yes.
Well, I'm just wondering how you track outcomes, right?
Right. Well, I know with the work that I've done in Chapel Hill School District, for example. So with that, as I mentioned, they hired an equity director about 3 or 4 years ago, and that equity director was one of my former students. So he asked me to come in and help train him as well as the equity team that would be part of the district and they would have equity teams set up in each school. So over the past 3 years, they have seen some success, I guess, in terms of there's been less incidences in terms of racial incidences between students, between teachers and students, between parents and teachers, as well as with their SROs. In fact, they have decrease the amount of SROs they've had in their schools. I don't know if they're tracking, well, of course they're tracking academic achievement, but I don't know if they're doing any particular research on how any of this may be affecting that. Now, if I was there, that is something I probably would help them with, because they're not researchers. But they have noted a tremendous decrease in the type of incidences that they have related to race, and also those related to fights and disagreements around issues of race.
Could you tell us the equity teams that were established, were the teachers volunteer, or were they identified?
Both. So the equity director who was hired went to some teachers that he knew who was doing this type of work in other school districts they had worked in, and it's happened to be hired by Chapel Hill, because there's a lot of, school districts in that area. And so he approached a couple of those people and said, look, I have this idea of putting together an equity team. I have someone who's going to help train us, help put together our mission, our vision, our mission statement. And I did the initial trainings with both teachers and school leaders the first 2 years, particularly for new school leaders that were coming into the district. And then they picked it up from there. Others then started to volunteer as they saw that there were people who were passionate about it, who were eager to train teachers in their building and asked to be a part of it. That's where the actual teams came into play in terms of each school. Because at first it was just an equity team for the district, but as it was more interest from the different elementary, middle, and high schools, they created teams at each school.
Okay, and on the equity officer, we're contemplating that position.
Mm-hmm.
And your former student, can you give us an idea what he does?
Okay. Well, so he actually, in addition to training new people coming into the district, because now he does what I did initially, and he trains all new teachers and school leaders that are coming into the building, or the district, and on issues of equity. He goes through a whole training around racial history and different laws and policies and institutional racism and things of that nature in terms of training new teachers and school leaders coming into the building, in the district, excuse me. He also, he actually has two roles, because he is also director of what they call their AVID program, which is, a higher achievement type of program. But the reason why he has that dual role is because that particular program did not have as many African American students as they probably should have, or Latino students for that matter. So he was addressing some of those issues and gaps. So one of the things that he did was do some particular questioning and observations of classes of particular teachers who were suggesting certain students for this program and not others, but also reviewing the criteria for the policies in place for getting students into that program. He specifically works around discipline and trying to address the different disparities between black and white students in terms of discipline disparities. And gosh, I know he does those things, and I'm sure he does a lot more, but that would have to be, I think you would have to ask him that in more detail.
Thank you.
Other questions? Do you have any plan to use the data you collect within our school outside of our school?
No. So one of the things we probably would do, because I've mentioned that I would get IRB approval, is because this is unique in terms of putting together such a training plan. I probably would put together some type of research project around it. I would not do any types of publications or anything like that unless you permitted us to do so. And even if you did permit us to do so, everything would be pseudonyms, because in our particular area or discipline of research, we don't use names. of schools or individuals. And pretty much the most you get is Western Pennsylvania.
Other questions? I have one.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So you mentioned some important groups with teachers, students, parents, community members. How can the board be involved in this? Would there be any specialized training for us as board members? And, to what extent can we or should we be involved in the process as we get started? If we get started, in May, as you plan to do, what stage would you like us to be involved?
So what we would do in May and June with the remainder of the academic year initially would be observations of classrooms and school events, what's just going on in hallways at schools, that type of thing. We would definitely want to interview Superintendent Johnson, Assistant Superintendent Lentz, and if board members, if we could interview you as well, that would be great. That gives us a feel for where you think the issues or problems are. And also to think about what may be more deficit perspective and how we can make it more strength-based, asset-based perspective and turn what seems to be negative into something more positive. We would also move forward with interviewing school leaders in each building. Then from that and from the other data that we have already gathered from Dr. Hughley, is start to put together an actual training program. When we would do the more structured professional development, like I said, at least twice a month, we envision that first month, as I mentioned, we would be doing a lot of observations to see where most of our time would be needed and in what classrooms and in what schools. But we also would want to do more structured PD that first month as well. And that's when we would have groups pretty much separated, teachers together, staff, school leaders, board members, or we could say district leadership. And that's where we go through a series of activities around that introspective type of period. But it gives you an opportunity to be in the group that you're comfortable with, so you're willing to share. And you're also not willing to really dig deep into your own history and past if you're with people that either in that hierarchy have power or not as much power. So, but after that, after those first initial meetings, we would want to intermingle those groups, and I would include students. My experience with doing this type of work and including students in some of these groups have been extremely powerful, as well as including parents in these groups have been extremely powerful. Teachers, administrators, staff learn so much about each other, as well as about their students that they've had in classrooms for years and knew nothing about, including their families. It makes a huge breakthrough because now you actually see that they don't see them just as that parent, that student, but they see them as individuals, as human beings, as someone that's like them. And that is the biggest obstacle to get over if you want to constantly debias. So initially, yes, we would want to do something with you in terms of interviewing and then some group work that you would do as a board and as a district leadership. But then we will want to intermingle you around with the students, staff, parents, and community.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
So real quickly, so with that, as far as data is concerned, you'll be kind of keeping us in the loop as what you're finding. If there's
Absolutely.
Any kind of like on a monthly basis.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, that would be easier to do because if we have a lot of data, I wouldn't want to just put that as some big report at the end of the year. I think monthly check-ins would be more than appropriate.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And I think at your places you have the proposal. It should be there.
So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. That'll move us to registered speakers. Fon Nanji. I saw him come in. Is he still here?
He's back
There he is. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Nanji. A reminder to our registered speakers that comments are limited to 2 minutes. Speakers should give their name and address of residence before speaking, and questions raised during comments will be addressed either during discussion this evening at the appropriate time or in response after the meeting is concluded. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. My name is Paul Nanji. I'm a behavioral specialist at Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School. My address is 2331 Marbury, and that's Churchill 15221.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to thank you guys for getting me on the agenda, giving me this opportunity to speak. First, I'd like to start off by giving a notice of a great job for Mr. Bernard Mack, who came out of retirement at the beginning of this school year and gave up his free time, to come help us at the high school because we're down understaffed a little bit. I took a leave. And I just want to commend him for his efforts while he's been with the district and all that he's done. He's been a tremendous, tremendous asset to us. So I would just like to thank Mr. Mack for that. And also Mr. Chansey, who also works along with me in that position. We get a lot of work and coming through those doors with students, and they take their time and they do everything they can to help fulfill whatever those students may need behaviorally. A lot of times their names are not said or mentioned, and that goes along with the other behavioral specialists in the other schools as well. It's a tough position, all our positions are tough, but since I'm in this particular one, I'll speak for my people. So I just would appreciate all that they've done, and all the efforts they've given. I'd like to formally announce I actually started a company. I'm the CEO of a nonprofit called True for You Foundation, and this just started officially in December. And I had my first event April 19th. It was at the Intermediate Building, and I feel it was very much a success. We had the auditorium in use, we had the gym in use, we had the field in use. We had students playing in the gym, doing performing arts, dancing, singing, performing, and also just socializing in a safe environment at the Intermediate Building. Off school hours on Saturday. Very safe environment, and I will continue to do that. I have 2 more scheduled in the summertime, so hopefully those go through. And also, I'll be really quick. I know I've reached my time. I also want to be doing a summer camp in the high school building called Life Camp, which specifically I want to work on self-esteem development, relationship building, community economics, and social industrial outcome assessment, which basically is just taking a look at our kids and their personalities and then looking at all the different industries and jobs, kind of talking to them about what opportunities they may have available to them in their communities, how to maintain their communities, and really how the neighborhood works. A lot of our kids and even our families don't even really understand how the neighborhood works, as we can see from our board attendance. So those are some of the things I'd like to work on, and I just wanted to give a heads up to the board. I'll have other things I would like to mention also, and also I'll be here in front of the board speaking more often in the summer.
Do you think you could come to one of our committee meetings, perhaps? A little more casual, not on a time crunch.
Sure, I have to look at my schedule and make sure I can get to some of those.
We can talk about when those are.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Flanagan. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Robert Clanigan, Comrie Avenue, Braddock. Item 2.1 on your agenda, the purpose statement reads, the board recognizes its responsibility for the development, assessment, and improvement of the educational program of the schools. To this end, the curriculum shall be evaluated, developed, and modified on a continuing basis, and in accordance with a plan for curriculum improvement. Item 13.1 on the agenda, proposal for racial equity, implicit bias assessment and training for the entire school district. Would this type of proposal/training cover the attitude of an administrator who refers to African American history as, and I think I have the term correctly, as a top-off course. Basically, take it if you need credits. This kind of attitude and statement implies a lack of sincerity and lack of importance towards African American history, as does the placement of European history as an AP course. To label African American history in this fashion and be it from someone who is in a position of influence implies a lack of respect and lack of sincerity in strengthening the course. Also implies a lack of respect for the African American culture and the students/people of the culture. This is the type of attitude those four young ladies spoke about at your last agenda legislative meeting a month ago. As I read earlier in that purpose statement, to this end, the curriculum shall be evaluated, developed, and modified on a continuing basis and in accordance with a plan for curriculum improvement. How can someone with this attitude towards a people's culture and history fulfill your written purpose to evaluate, develop, and modify curriculum in this case specifically African American course? This is what has festered during the current administration, not to mention the various incidents that transpired the past 3 years specifically, but also beyond. This is the type of attitude and mentality that has hindered the district for decades to living up to its vision statements, specifically dealing with culture, diversity, and the statement that states diversity is our strength. That will not be true until the written curriculum is written to strengthen, uplift, and educate holistically a diverse student population, and being specific, incorporate, and infuse African American history into the overall curriculum holistically. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That'll move us to board matters.
Action item 2.1, the first reading of revised policy 105 on curriculum. Final reading will be next month.
Any questions on that policy at this point?
Before we get started, my internet isn't connected.
Interesting.
Steve, if you can hear me.
I'm trying to refresh it.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, we don't have a vote on this one. Do you need to?
Yeah.
No, I'm just, for when we get there. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll go to action item 2.2, which will be a first and final reading of policy 909 on visitors.
Before we do that, can we just go back and make sure nobody has any questions on the curriculum policy at this point?
Sure.
Okay. We do have committee this month and then next month as well to ask questions and review those policies. Okay. Great. Okay, sorry.
Right. So we'll just first and final reading of policy 909 on visitors.
Any questions on that policy? Okay. Seeing none, move on.
Record hers separately, Julie.
Oh, that's a final. Oh, it's a final.
It's a final vote, so we'll just take a first and a second. We'll go from there. Oh, she's working now.
Oh, you are.
Where are we at? 2-2, yes.
It's fine.
Heyo. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for the hold up.
Ready to go? Okay. So, last call for questions on the visitors policy. Anyone have any? Okay. Seeing none.
We need a first and second.
I'm sorry. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Seligson. Now any discussion? Okay. Seeing none. Please call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.3, first and final reading of revised policy 122 on extracurricular activities. It's also attached.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions, discussion? Okay.
Yeah, so are the major changes to this the grade point average?
That's the only change.
Okay, because nothing was highlighted, that's why.
Nope,
and
the only thing that
that's why,
changes
that's
is
what I
grade
thought.
point
I
average.
just didn't think, want to make sure I wasn't missing anything besides that.
Nope, that's it. That's all it changed.
It's from a 2, that's going to a 2.3.
Correct. Making it more stringent.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Okay.
I think it's a good thing.
Yep, I agree.
I think that's what the NCAA has gone to. For like if you want to be an athlete in college, that is their requirements. You in core curriculum, so like your A in gym doesn't help you. It's your core requirements. You must maintain a 2.3.
Okay. Good to know. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.4, first reading of policy 816 on video surveillance.
Is there a motion? Oh, sorry, this is the first reading. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I have two questions, actually. First question is, I didn't see anywhere where it says the time limit in which we would keep or maintain the videos.
We have that under a separate records retention policy. It's 14 days, I think, for video. If Steve is listening, he might know that because he gave that policy to me. But I believe that's kept under the separate record retention policy.
Okay, why wouldn't it state anything in this policy? Because since we're talking about length of time, when parents can view it, how many days after an incident, or discipline in which a parent can, why wouldn't we state?
Well, I mean, because there's always a risk that if we change one policy and then don't change the other one, they're cross-referencing wrong information. But I mean, if it's going to make it, in your opinion, a little more clear, we can add that. Problem with it, but the idea normally we don't do that is because then again, we change one but don't change the other. Then we have two different policies saying two different things. But I don't have a problem adding it. It's not,
Did you have a statement in this said for date of time for refer to the other policy?
Well, yeah, but I see Mr. Gray's point. I don't have a problem with us amending that to include that language in there.
And I guess my next question is, we had a video policy. What's different with this new one? Because I didn't. This wasn't specifically highlighted. I don't think either.
You know what? The old policy was just very, very old. I can't remember specifically, so I can try to find out the differences. And normally we do have the old policy attached. I don't know why we don't have that here, or we didn't have one. Again, I'm referring to Steve because he's the one that promulgated this policy. I'm not sure that we had an old video surveillance policy or not, to be honest with you. We didn't have an old video. Yeah, there never was one.
Yeah, I don't think there was.
So this is the actual. So
this is the first
we
time
were taking video before, and we just never had a policy.
Right.
Correct.
And this is pretty much a cookie cutter copy that the state recommends. A lot of other school districts use the same verbiage, everything with that policy. But we're free to tweak it and add things and remove things as we go.
Well, we just decided, I think probably would be a good idea for us to take the language out of the retention policy on videos and put it in here.
Sure. And that's in Board Policy 800.
Yes.
There's a sub-attachment there that shows where all the retention years and days are.
We can either cite that in this one or add it from that
I would
to this one.
I would suggest to make the reference to the other.
Make the reference to the policy?
That way,
Sure.
you want to
Side
be
note.
sure you have the right. You don't get two different numbers.
Right. I mean, the language in this policy itself is, I like the language how it's made up, so I don't have any problem with stated. It's just that the timeline, I think, is important.
Yeah, you're right. Let me say for answers on retention of videos, please see policy X. That way, we don't get contradictory information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions before Steve runs out? Okay, thank you. Okay. Again, we'll be able to discuss that at policy committee next week and at next month's meetings as well.
Action item 2.5, first and final reading of revised policy 123. That's supposed to be athletics, extracurricular athletics, it does say. I'm sorry, I misread it. Extracurricular athletics. It's the same as the other one. The only thing that changes is grade point average.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion on this policy? Okay. Seeing none, please call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.6, first reading of policy 808 on food services.
Any questions on that? Okay. Seeing none.
Action item 2.7, first reading of revised policy 138 on language instruction educational program for English learners.
Any questions? Okay. Seeing none.
Action item 2.8, first reading of policy 908 on public complaints.
Any questions? Okay.
The next action item, Ms. Glasser, we did not get that attachment done, so could we, I'm not sure what the proper procedures, can we table that, Mr. Vogel?
Which item is 2.9?
2.9.
Yes, you could say, well, yeah, you could just do a motion to table the first reading of policy 626.1.
Is there such a motion?
It's a motion to table 26.1, 626.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any discussion on the conversation about tabling? Okay. Seeing none, it'll be a voice vote, Ms. Pule, to table.
Mr. Graves?
Yeah.
Ms. Selkson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand? Yes. Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 2.10, second and final reading of policy 239 on foreign exchange students.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion on this policy?
Just a quick question. I wondered, just out of curiosity, do we get foreign exchange? I know we used to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We go.
I know there was someone who used to play soccer with my son.
Yeah.
So I'm not, but
I don't know how many we have this year. Candy, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't think we have any this year.
Oh, okay. Well, usually
There's one.
there's one.
There's one. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
We usually have one or more.
Absolutely. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.11, approve the selection of blank, blank, and blank as voting delegates to the PSBA 2018 Delegate Assembly. Do anybody wanted to do that?
I guess first we need nominations. Anybody want to, or volunteers?
Where's the assembly at?
It's in Hershey.
Hershey.
At the Hershey Lodge, generally.
I go. I got a brother who lives in Hershey.
Yeah, there you go. I'd be willing to go as well.
I'll go a day early.
Yeah, there you go. I'd be willing to go as well. Anyone else want to join?
When is this?
I'd go. October. Okay.
Who is that? Wrong page. So we would change that to approve the selection of Mr. Graves, Ms. Glasser, and Ms. Strasbaugh as voting delegates to the PSBA's 2018 Delegate Assembly.
Okay. Bring us back chocolate. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Second. Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Seligson. Any questions or discussion?
But so I know when they do this, and so I imagine it's nice of you to do this. But I mean, not that I care at all, but for the district, I mean, are we going to pay for their room and stuff like that? Do we do that for them?
I won't be staying overnight. I'll go in one day and come back.
Yeah, we budgeted for board.
Oh, really? Oh, it's that quick? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not long.
For me, anyway. I mean,
well, we give them a stipend at least for.
I think we should buy them a meal at least if they're going to spend their time and everything.
There's board services budgeted every year. We seldom ever use it, and there's money that's budgeted every year for board services
I
like
think
travel.
if we go there, we should at least buy
or travel, and food, and things like that.
I would support that for sure.
Yeah, you get travel reimbursement, absolutely.
Good to know that's available.
Yeah, I mean, as I was just stay with my brother.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We'll buy you a Big Mac and
Okay.
I appreciate you
Trying to watch
driving
my
out
face.
there. Least we can do. Get a salad. You and me, brother, we're in the same boat.
This normally follows the SBA convention that they hold every year, which is really for your benefit. You should possibly look into it, and you know, if you want to attend the actual functions. Today,
I think it's usually Wednesday, Thursday, and then
It's the 17th to the 19th.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Did you all get that?
I got no.
All right, hold on. When nobody was voting, I was like, okay. How about now?
There we go.
Yeah, I already got one.
My name is spelled wrong. Does that matter?
I didn't. That was.
it was there. I don't know what happened. Double up.
I mean,
so I didn't know.
Missing a couple.
pretty
consonants in there.
close. Yeah.
He'll correct.
We'll find somebody with that name.
Motion passes. I can't. read
Motion
the-
carries unanimously.
Unanimously.
Apologies.
That's my eyes are. Yours are. Action item 2.12. Request board action upon the multiple charter school application of the Propel School submitted pursuant to Act 55 of 2017. The consolidation of multiple charter schools, including Propel Charter School East and the Propel Charter School Braddock Hills.
Motion to table.
Second.
Okay. Any, I don't believe there's any discussion after a motion to table.
If you want to have discussion.
Okay. All right, then we will have a little discussion.
Well, Scott, I mean, I know, we talked about this for a little bit, and, so what this says for everybody else is just, it's just allowing, I guess, the Propel schools in there, so they can consolidate all their charter schools into one entity. And I guess important to the act is the stated purpose of the amendment was to allow high-performing charter schools to consolidate in order to decrease administrative costs and hurdles. And my thing would be like, okay, we're going to do something to help them, but these costs can be passed along to us. Because if it's going to decrease their expenses, that means they should charge us less. I don't know. That'd be something I'd like to know about.
I don't disagree, and I also think my concern continues to be that there is little to no control over monies flowing from the taxpayers of Woodland Hills and where they go. And at present, at least whenever they are expropriated from the school district, they remain either in the Propel School in Turtle Creek or the one in Braddock Hills. And with this, my concern would be that our money from our taxpayers would be going to support Propel schools that perhaps our students will never attend. And I think that is a travesty, and this continues to be this charter school law continues to be an insult to the taxpayers of Pennsylvania.
I think it's important to note, too, that, as much as it makes sense that Propel would charge us less if they're able to consolidate in this way, that isn't a determination that they make. It's determined by the state. There's a formula to figure out how much we pay in charter schools that won't be impacted by this determination. So it's a system that is not controlled in any way by what seems to make sense financially. So
I agree with all these. I mean, I think, the charter schools, I personally have no problem with them. I don't understand why the state created all these schools and why they're not subject to the same rules that we are as a district. As sunshine laws, why is everything not accessible? We give them, they get all this government money, and I know from the other places that have to do that, they have to be accountable for it. Explain it, and it has to be out in the open. Why is this stuff it's none of your business? And, we've seen, unfortunately, the past few years, a couple of schools, and they, for some reason, had to go in there, and it has been one big mess. I'm not saying, Propel is the same way, but, it'd be nice to know for sure. I know, my job here is to make sure we do the best we can responsibly for our students. And one way is, anytime the taxpayers can walk in here and say, I want to see that contract. I want to see where the money's going. It's very easily. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments? Okay.
Who was the second?
The second was Mr. Hinchin, I believe, to table.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbach?
Yes.
Mr. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes, in capital letters.
Ms. Lasser?
Yes.
If I can explain something, the reason for the motion table is this: if the resolution passed tonight, you can see the distaste of the board on this. If it would be denied, then the charter school could file an appeal with Harrisburg. There's a process involved, and it seems the board doesn't want to be involved in something like this. But by tabling, as a matter of law, if the resolution is not passed, it's deemed passed if the board takes no action. So, hence, that's why the motion to table.
Well, I think also the other thing, we were told we have 45 days to approve this, and we just received the stuff, and so this is the only meeting that we have where it can be done. That's kind of hinky. I mean, they're dealing.
Yeah, it's just to clarify for the audience, between the time that the application, and it's not directly to Propel, it's just the way the law is, that if it's provided to us, we have 45 days to render a decision on it, which unfortunately Harrisburg doesn't take into account that schools have usually just one voting meeting a month. So,
no, I'm sure they know that very well because
they know when it's convenient
it's
to
been
know it.
established that all school districts do it. Oh, they meet once a month to vote, and they say, "Oh, well, we'll just do it them," and they get one chance. They knew exactly what they're doing. Come on.
Okay.
I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. These guys know exactly what they're doing.
Should we move on?
Yes, I think we can. Unless anyone else has anything else. Okay. Seeing none, we can move on.
Action item 213, permission to advertise the position of superintendent of the Woodland Hills School District publications, including but not limited to the AASA Job Bulletin, National Alliance of Black School Educators, and Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents at a cost not to exceed $1,000 from the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Henchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
Just for clarification, I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, and so the audience knows, these aren't the only 3 places we'll be advertising. These are just the ones that we have to pay in addition to what is already guaranteed with the contract that we have with Ray and Associates. So there's going to be other places that it will be advertised.
Correct. Yeah.
Ms. Glasser, on behalf of the board, tying into the superintendent search, we want to thank you for the last 2 weeks managing zillions of emails. You put together a logistical masterpiece. It was not easy coordinating schedules and getting this pulled off as we try to adhere to a timeline to get this process moving. So thank you for all that.
Thank you. The process is certainly not over, but I do want to say at this point that I think on behalf of the board, we greatly appreciate the public participation in the process thus far. But to follow on that, I think we can talk about the timeline that we are looking to follow, and we can talk a little bit about that as we're part of this conversation as well. The board will be advertising shortly in the next few days for the position. It will be posted for 30 days or thereabouts, during which time we'll receive applications. There will be, put my schedule out here. Apologies. There will be interviews that follow that in June and in July, and then it is our hope that we will be able to identify a final candidate final candidate meetings and schedule those during the week of July 16th. So the timeline is aggressive, and while the board intends to stick with that timeline, and I think we've discussed it at some length, we intend to do that. There's certainly not a fixed timeline. If we feel as if we need more time, we'll take it. But this is what we're hoping to do in an effort to bring in a high-quality superintendent as expeditiously as possible. So, does anyone have anything to say about the timeline at this point before we move ahead? Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you know what the final count of surveys that we received was?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It was in the neighborhood. There were two different surveys. So in the community profile, the community, the selection of the qualities for the superintendent, I believe we had nearly 400. My recollection is 370 something. There were a few less for the survey about the district itself and how we've been doing. That was in the neighborhood of 367, I think, was the number, something like that. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So, that was, very helpful. So, okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. Yeah. We can also, it's also important that we note that we had a great deal of community participation from business leaders and elected officials, and we're grateful to receive support and expressions of support from all of those groups as we went through the process, particularly from our elected officials in the municipalities. And so we're grateful to them and looking forward to working with them to continue the process. Okay. All right. So the vote is up. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 2.14, permission to approve the superintendent profile prepared as part of the superintendent search process.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. So the profile that we have, and I'm going to go ahead and take the lead on this and read what we have, if that's okay with everyone. We have qualities and characteristics. So the qualities and characteristics that have been identified come from the meetings and surveys that we had out in the public in the last few weeks. And so I'm just going to briefly read through these, and after we have approved it, should we approve it, with a vote here tonight, we'll make sure that this is posted on the website for review as well, okay, through board docs. So the document that I have here says Woodland Hills School District seeks a superintendent who recommended qualifications include possesses excellent people skills, presents a positive image of the district, and will listen to input and make a decision when necessary. Possesses leadership skills required to respond to the opportunities and challenges presented by an ethnically and culturally diverse community. Inspires trust, self-confidence, and models high standards of integrity and personal performance with the ability to develop and communicate a vision of quality education for the future to the board, staff, and community. Is a strong communicator in speaking, listening, and writing. Demonstrates commitment to community visibility with high interest in a broad range of community groups and organizations. Is able to delegate authority appropriately while maintaining accountability. Possesses previous experience that will benefit the long-term financial health of the district. Promotes positive student behavior conducive to a healthy learning environment. Possesses the ability to enhance student performance, especially in identifying and closing or narrowing the gaps in student achievement. Promotes a positive and professional environment for district employees and board. And is able to identify, recruit, select, and maintain building and central office administrators who are capable of advancing the district vision. We'll also consider candidates who are able to make recommendations and decisions that are data-driven. So that's the profile that we are set to approve with this vote. Any questions, comments, discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Move on to curriculum. Action item 3.1, permission to approve summer curriculum writing as outlined in the motion.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions or discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 3.2, permission to purchase the Naviance online college and career readiness platform system.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question.
I got a question.
Jim, can you explain to us what this is about?
Yes, the Naviance program is a college and career readiness software package. It will connect students to opportunities for scholarships, to information about colleges. It will assist students in applying for college. It likewise does the same for any sort of career planning as well. So it puts students in touch with average salaries in states, gives them information about careers. It also gives us access to a fully developed curriculum that extends down into the elementary buildings that we can augment and add to ourselves with our existing curriculum. It's going to create a career portfolio for our students. It's going to talk with our SIS and allow students to start really building a full-blooded career plan in 5th or 6th grade. It's going to chart all this information for us and give some data that we'll be able to report back because that is a state requirement now. And it's going to be available to our graduates after they graduate as well. So once you have an account, you'll be able to keep it, which is going to be helpful because it can assist in finding jobs, finding careers. It includes things like resume builders as well. It's also going to give us the ability to transmit transcripts electronically because it has the proper encryption to do so, and we don't have software that does that now.
Mr. Graves, do you have a question as well, or is that the answer you had?
No, I actually had the same question that Mr. Belmont had. I think
Dr. Hildebrand.
And you said this gives students, this connects to Common App, is that right?
Yes, it will pull in your Common App data. So for colleges that use the Common App, you should be able to apply from within the system once you pull in your account data.
Excellent.
Any other questions? I just want to note that I was a part of the advisory committee meeting on career and college readiness, which I believe is part of the requirements for the new state curriculum as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to attend that meeting earlier this week on Monday evening, and it seems as if the guidance department and the team that is, a faculty team that is working around these new state requirements is very excited about this program. So
yes,
it seems like a worthwhile purchase.
Yeah, we did put together a large team that looked at a variety of products before settling on this.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
To the Section 6 Personnel, Action Item 6.1, request approval of Sections A, D, F, and G.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any reason to go into executive session to discuss any personnel matters? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. Ms. Peel, I got an error. Not a yes.
I never got a box.
I didn't get a box.
Okay, hold on a second.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting.
All right, how about now? I just did it again.
That's weird.
We'll try this again.
Right here. How was it not?
Oh, I still got an error.
I got nothing.
It just clicked. It was on my screen for a second, and then it just, before I could even click on it, went away.
Okay, I'll just do a Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrandt?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Thank you very much. With that, we've just appointed our new high school assistant principal, Mr. Eric Graff is here. Eric, you want to come up and put him just introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. My name is Eric Graff. I come to you from the Hill House Passport Academy Charter School, which is a dropout recovery high school located in the Hill District. I've been there for the past 3 years. I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and I appreciate the selection committee showing this confidence in my background and skills. And I'm really looking forward to investing myself into this dynamic school district and community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Section 7, Technology. Action Item 7.1, request permission to purchase a Power Pack add-on for Power School at a cost of $4,150.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none. Call the vote.
Yeah, I got an error too.
Oh, jeez.
I voted. Maybe we need to upgrade the internet here.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action Item 7.2, request permission to renew support on the data center's Cisco phone system at a cost of $14,176.05.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none. We'll try this again.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action Item 7.3, request permission to purchase 300 additional Cisco Informacast licenses at a cost of $6,243.25 from General Fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none. There we go.
Did everybody get one?
I'm looking for another job.
And it actually didn't give me an error message.
I got no error. I got a yay.
Including.
Motion carries unanimously.
Action Item 7.4, request permission to purchase 26 networking modules and additional network management licenses at a cost of $14,642, from General Fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion?
Steve, will this bring us up to speed on what we need?
Yes, this is additional
For
equipment
what?
needed that was no longer, won't be covered under E-rate because we've expended all of those funds. And this will make it a lot easier to manage and keep track and monitor everything.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none.
Back in it.
Motion carries unanimously.
Go to Section 9, Food Service Transportation, permission to accept the nutrition contract for the 18-19 school year. It's the second renewal of the contract. It also includes the four possible renewal years. I didn't say that very well.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion? I have just one. Mr. Johnson, do you know what the guarantee is from nutrition for next year?
I do not. Is Siobhan here?
She had to go for an appointment.
I don't know. I can find out, though. I don't know what the guarantee is.
Okay.
We'll find out. Mike, do you know? We'll find out.
Okay. That's fine. If we could get that in an update, that would be helpful. Anyone else have questions or discussion? Okay.
72,117.66.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Go to Section 10, Buildings and Grounds, Action Item 10.1. Request approval of the new Siemens time and material rates as listed on the attachment.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussion?
I'm assuming we really have no choice in this, right? Because we have all Siemens stuff.
Everything's controlled by Siemens throughout the
Yeah.
school district.
And we have a choice. We cannot do it, then we have to find somebody else, but no one else certified to fix Siemens.
Right. That's
okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, call the roll. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 10.2, request approval of the McFarland-Kistler contract addendum for the design of the Dixon cafeteria for an additional $9,100 from the Capital Project Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion?
So my understanding is that we sort of gave them bad information. Is that what happened? That they had to redesign the.
They'd redesign it because they were designing it as though the building was only going to be supporting the student enrollment there, but it's actually going to be the production center for the other schools. So that was bad information. It just wasn't communicated to them that this was the production facility for all the other schools in the district. I mean, when I characterize that as bad information, I can see that point.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 10.3, permission to approve a 3-year contract extension with Republic Services for trash removal and recycling with a first-year cost $68,801.28 from general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question. I know Bob mentioned at one point the challenge of getting actual recycled bins. Has that been addressed?
Yes, this week we got our recycle dumpsters at every school except for the Academy and Rankin. I have to find a place to put them because the space is not really there. So that's something I'm going to be working on for the next week, 2 weeks, try to figure out how I'm going to fit a dumpster there for the recycling. And currently at the high school today, it's totally filled with paper. So it's working already. So we might even see a less cost as we process for our first year as well, just because of the recycling.
Bob, thank you for getting us to this point. As you're talking with the leads in the buildings, what's the student reaction been to this?
We haven't really gotten that far, but again, like we discussed 2 months ago in our facilities meeting, it is my goal to have that up and running by first day of school. So I will be reaching out to the teachers per building who's running the recycling program, and to get the kids more involved per building.
If I understand right from the contract, the cost for recycling is $23,000 a year on top of what we were paying previously?
Correct. But again, that cost can come down. We might see something come down within our first year, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that.
So our environmental awareness has a price, huh?
Well, that's what I was trying to say before when this all came up 6 months ago. We're still not there because we got to purchase recycling cans. Right. But I think for my first year, to try to get the kids involved, we're going to grab cardboard boxes and decorate them and put them in classrooms, offices. And we got to get people to start writing grant money for that stuff to come in. And that's what we need. We really need somebody that knows how to write grant money to request that stuff. It's there.
Or
so
maybe generous community members would donate a trash can that we can stick a recycling sticker on.
Boroughs also donate that stuff as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And yeah, fortunately, from what I understand, the bottom's pretty much fallen out of the recycling market in terms of it having any commercial value. It's just all cost now. So
yep.
It's you really just are doing it just as an environmental consideration.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Pugh? Motion carries unanimously.
Action item 10.4, request permission for outside organizations to use facilities for the 17-18 school year and the 18-19 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah. So for the Truth for Youth Foundation event, there's no date. There's a time, but no date associated with that.
Yeah.
At the intermediate school.
So that would be June 2nd?
June 2nd, yes.
June 2nd.
And Forest Hills Churchill Baseball. Oh, I'm sorry, Forest Hills, Baseball Association. They're requesting for times that have passed. All right, they have March 19th to April 30th.
Yeah. I could not find the dates prior to that, so I just added them in there just to make sure it was cleared. So there are dates that they did not use it though as well, because of being.
Well, my point is we're approving something that passed.
Right.
So that essentially becomes a ratification.
That's a ratification.
A ratification.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that those were it wasn't like 2019 or something.
No.
Okay.
I know another question I have. I've taken phone calls from other people regarding questions regarding permits for fields and whatnot. And I think we need to figure out a better system because I know we have big projects going on in the district, and I think his time will be more well spent looking at the projects we have going on at Dixon, at the high school, and him worrying about who has a permit for this little thing. That's really mine. Our money here in the district can be well spent with him on his specific skills and sending. I think we can find somebody else who can approve these permits and, a better way to track it. I think it's a waste of his time to be doing that. It's not, we're not being particularly responsible if he does that.
Okay. Noted.
And just to add to that, I'm still getting requests saying that permits are not issued or there's there's some type of disconnect anyway. So I agree with Jeff in the sense that we may need to find another process on how we do that and have it more organized and actually have a better schedule that we can actually view ongoing what we've already approved compared to what we're about to approve. Because in situations like this where dates are all, we know specifically the dates, but I'm still getting
something
correspondence from.
I agree with that. Something like, because we always seem to get people who ask for approval for stuff a long time in advance. Maybe things would be to do like, okay, we can only approve for stuff for a minimum or a maximum of 6 months out. And then, but like for 2 months would be like maybe people in instances, people that use it in the area, they get first crack at it for those 2 months, and then 4 months out, then anybody gets it. Because I know when you get it, when two people request at the same time, my preference would be for people who are local in the area to use it. But like if let's say for the baseball field, if a local baseball team wants to use it, and then we have another place that runs tournaments up there, and they want to use it the same weekend, who do you decide? Well, if we give the local people a crack at it first for a while, and then the other people, if they haven't used it, then there's their shot. And like, well, so it kind of gives them a little bit more people, the tax holders, so people who pay their taxes to get those fields ready. They have their crack at it first, and then other outside organizations, and they can come in there if they want to rent those facilities and and do them.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, Bob, how's school do working? We purchased something to alleviate this problem, but it doesn't seem like it's still going away.
Well, again, it's still a new process with our school district. And again, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now, I didn't do it. I had secretaries that took care of the stuff that I'm trying to learn to take care of. So that's, but it's my job to step up, but I am still making mistakes, and I recognize that, and I'm still working on it. I was with School Dude on the phone for 45 minutes, having them walk me through some stuff. I am getting support here at the administration office with Valerie, with it as well. Sometimes Jolie has assisted as well. What really hinders us, the district has tried to reach out for subs, but the subs are here one day, next day they're not here. So, and if I'm training them or our IT department trains them, we're back at square one the next day training somebody else. So there's a lot of downtime on my part and on IT or any other administrator that is trying to assist me to train that individual.
Okay, so is this a learning curve?
It is a learning curve because actually this week I've accomplished getting all my head custodians access to School Dude now, so they know exactly what's going on in their building on a regular basis. So now they're actually able to print a calendar out a month showing what's going on in our schools. We didn't have that before. We were getting pieces of paper from teachers or from the principals saying this is what's going on. So that's actually going to cut down on our paper cost by them having access to FS Direct to see what's going on in our building.
Well, if this is a learning curve situation, then maybe we should just allow it to continue and put up with a little bit more frustration until we get to the point where we're proficient at using the software. Because we already purchased it. But thank you for answering that.
You're welcome.
And you said that you had secretaries who did it before. I think you have a secretary who's out for a while, or
correct?
Yeah, we have that's really the core problem. We have an issue in his particular office that we couldn't really talk about here, and once we can get that resolved, I think a lot of this, because I do think it goes back to learning curve plus stability in the office, which we don't have right now. And
okay. All right.
A limited amount we can do about it. We're doing our best, and Bob's doing his best. But
so we're just plugging holes temporarily. But look,
I think once both those things come into alignment, it'll get a lot better.
All right.
The more we're hoping that the sub that arrives is going to be here on a more permanent basis.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll alleviate some of that pressure. But yeah.
So I guess, again, I've been here for 11 months. I think this is probably about the only thing it's failed, and it's making me look bad, and I apologize for that. I think if I just got one more year under my belt with the School Dude, with my secretary when she comes back, or somebody else is going to take that spot, that person will be properly trained, and things will run a lot smoother. And then my other goal is to get rid of the paper permits, and everybody's going to have to access our webpage to fill out an application and put the information that is required, and that's going to be less paper that we use as well. So,
Personally, I don't think it's really like a failure on your part. Maybe more like on our part. Your time's valuable.
Well, again,
everything that you do.
I feel like I'm making us look bad with the people that are having issues with the permits. So it is part of my fault. So.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
We'll continue to talk through it at committees as well and make sure that we have a good process that we can help you with.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions or discussion on this tab? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
I have an error.
I got no box.
You made me refresh.
Yes.
Yep. I guess we all.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go for that.
Try again.
It's 9:30.
There we go.
Anything? No. Error.
Nope. I
got nothing.
Nothing.
Gets paper.
All right. Miss Alexson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Miss Curry?
Yes.
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Miss Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Miss Glasser?
Yes.
That's harder than usual. I think it goes faster when we do it that way. School finance, action item 12.1, request ratification of the bill list for invoices paid out.
You missed
Oh, wait,
10.5.
You skipped
sorry.
10.5.
Skip 10.5. I skipped two.
You skipped
bunch.
I skipped
all
two.
kinds of stuff.
I was changing. I changed one, and that got way ahead of me there. Sorry. 10.5, action item 10.5, request approval to advertise for bids on the Woodland Hills Intermediate School at Dixon project.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion?
Is this the roof project?
This is the whole
I was
shebang.
going to say this is bids for everything. Okay.
What's the total cost for this project?
$26 million, somewhere in that ballpark.
Pocket change.
Right.
He won't know about the bids.
Yeah, this is not his stuff.
I know.
Any other-
I'm sorry, just the one thing on the Dixon project, and I know this is my wife, and we talked a little bit about this last night when I saw you, just that, the concern is to make sure the school is still kept up, because the school looks kind of bad. So I know the ball fields were no longer going to be used, so they cut the grass, and they cut like right along the edge of the grass, but the rest of the grass in the field is about 10 or 12 inches high. And so, still needs to be nice in the neighborhood for the rest of everybody else.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
We'll talk to Adrian about that.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none?
Miss Curry?
Yes.
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Miss Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Miss Alexson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Miss Glasser?
Yes.
All right, now we'll go to legal matters. Action item 11.1, request approval of a settlement and release agreement for an employee.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Johnson. We would have to go into executive to discuss this, but is there any need to do that? Okay. Seeing none?
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Miss Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Miss Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Miss Curry?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Miss Glasser?
Yes.
Yeah, now we'll go to school finance and get to where I was. Action item 12.1, request ratification of the bill list for invoices paid after the April 18th, 2018 legislative meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion of the ratification list? Okay. Seeing none?
Miss Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Miss Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Miss Curry?
Yes.
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Miss Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.2, request approval of the May 2018 bill list.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on the bill list? Seeing none, call the vote.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.3, request the acceptance of the April 2018 fund reports and student activity reports for informational purposes.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on the fund reports, activity reports? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.5, request approval of the budgetary transfers for April 2018 as detailed.
We skipped 12.
Skip 12.4.
Jeez, man, I'm having a bad night. Request approval of the investment reports for April 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Now go to 12.5, request approval of the budgetary transfers for April 2018 as detailed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions on the transfers? There are quite a few this month, I
I was
believe.
going to say, there seem to be a lot for their reason.
We're at the end of the year. I mean,
Yeah, that's-
we had to move around to get
Yeah.
the budget in order.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none? Call the
Ms.
vote.
Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.6, request the appointment of Miss Valerie Shaver as district treasurer effective July 1st, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none?
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.7, request approval of the Forbes Road Career and Technology Center operating budget for the 18-19 school year. The total operating budget is $6,362,000. Administrative budget $1,481,000.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions on the Forbes Road budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.8, request approval of the proposed final budget as a working budget for the 18-19 school year and Resolution 531-18 authorizing its display and advertising.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a little bit.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, thank you for providing that information in your update for the commission report. I did notice there was a line item that was probably $100,000 different than what was previously discussed. It was on, well, two questions. One, it was K to K1, teachers from K and K1, but I thought we were doing K to K2, and then I believe it was like 750 and the projected in your updates is 850. Is there any reason why for the change?
Yeah, it was actually 850 when I double checked it with Mike. I thought it was 750. It was actually 847, so I rounded it to 850. So that was just I didn't check with Mike for the right information. As far as the K-2, I thought we all said K-1. If we said K-2 somewhere, that was a misstatement. It was only for K-1. It was
Really?
K-1.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Belmont?
I'd like to ask my colleagues on the board, as we prioritize the budget this year, that we make first and foremost the addition of 10 kindergarten and first grade teachers so we can get to a 15-to-1 student-teacher ratio. From what we've learned from our administration is I don't think there's a bigger thing we can do to help in the education of our kids and getting them off on the right foot. And then number two, per the commission report, the idea of an equity officer, I'd like us to consider that position for sure. And then finally, Mr. Johnson's idea of a universal pre-K program at Schaefer Elementary, I'd like to have that discussion as well. I think those three things would be key in building a foundation for our future. Thank you.
I agree.
Any other questions?
I agree with Mike about the pre-K. Do we need to explore that, even at whatever $1.5 million or whatever it was?
I will get some more precise cost estimates. We've priced Schaefer out before. We have that information. I'll get it. And Mike and I will sit down and model the staff expenses too, just so you have that information.
Any additional questions?
Actually, Mike, Jim and I, because that'll be a lot of Jim.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, I'll just note for the record and for the public information, this is the preliminary budget. It does include a tax increase to the index, which would be 0.81 mils, but it is preliminary. We remain in conversation about that. This is not a tax increase that we're voting on tonight. It is a budget that is proposed for discussion over the next month, and we will be able to consider a final budget in June.
When's our next public workshop? Have we set the date for that?
Next week.
It will be next
next
week. Finance Committee, which will be Wednesday.
Okay, so it's during Finance Committee.
It is during Finance Committee, yeah, at 5 p.m.
We're moving it to 5.
Correct.
Okay.
It'll be 5 p.m. Here at the administration building, I believe. Correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So with that noted, anything else? Anything else? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, Ms. Puhle, will you call the vote, please?
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.9, request permission to exonerate the tax collectors for the unpaid installment-based real estate taxes for the 2017 tax year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions or discussions on the exonerations? Okay. Seeing none?
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 12.10, request approval of the bond resolution 53218, authorizing the incurring of non-electoral debt not to exceed $24,825,000.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions or discussion on the resolution? Mr. McKeag is here if we have questions.
Was there a different figure before?
This is to refinance our existing debt. We already have the mechanism in place for new debt, but this is necessary to reduce the capitalized interest that was present on the first proposal. So we're going to refinance our existing debt in order to eliminate almost $6 million of that capitalized interest.
So it's like we're refinancing our house. Just a
Yes,
lower
we're
interest rate.
refinancing current debt to make it fit, and it'll save us money and put additional. This will actually allow us, add an additional $2.5 million to the construction fund.
That was from your.
Win-win.
Go ahead.
I said sounds win-win. to the district.
I recall at a past committee, you were saying that it was about $7 million that we couldn't touch, and that's the purpose. So we're refinancing.
Yeah, we're going to refinance the other payments. There's the one scoop refinancing we did. We're not going to touch that one, but we're going to touch the other payments in the other years to make it work. And it'll save us capitalized interest. Like I said, we're instead of interest, making payments with money we borrowed, we've reduced that substantially. And without Plan Con being there to reimburse us for capitalized interest, because it is a reimbursable item, this helps us tremendously since the whole cost of the project is on us.
In a nutshell, we wanted to borrow this amount of money. Initially, we were only going to get to use this amount of money, but with Mike's help, we're now going to have the amount of money we originally wanted or close to it to be able to spend on our projects.
It's a pretty good way of looking at it, actually. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah. Is refinancing this way actually going to cost us more money in paying back the original bond that we took, the $25 million?
Absolutely. I think it was even, if I'm not correct, it's cheaper than the original. Even in debt, we save interest over the whole life of the issue.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about, that we actually end up paying more in interest if we refund. Okay, but we won't.
No, I think the interest payment came down from, like, the total cost of the bonds came down from about $183 million to about $179.
Yeah, to answer your question, it is cheaper. If the state were, through PlanCon, going to reimburse the capitalized interest, that would have been cheaper. But since there's no PlanCon, this is a more efficient way to go.
Okay. Just want to make sure we weren't sort of saving money somewhere but spending more somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
This actually became a win-win.
Well, okay. Where it's going.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Miss Ellickson?
Yep. Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Miss Curry?
Yes.
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Miss Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Miss Glasser?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move to the assistant superintendent section.
I'm sorry. I need to leave. I need to go to work. I've been waiting long enough. I'm going to be late.
Thanks, gentlemen, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We go to action item 13.1, permission to approve the proposal for racial equality and racial equity, implicit bias assessment and training from the University of Pittsburgh Center for Urban Education, using the options listed below with funding from the general fund.
So moved.
So there are actually two proposals here, so we'll need to determine which of the two are being moved. Mr. Belmont, if you would like to move one rather than the other, you can make that motion.
Can we get an idea from administration if, obviously doing everything everywhere is the best, is ideal, but
why don't we have Lisa come up and help us questions?
We sort of need a motion before we can discuss it, though.
What's the?
We're going to need you, so it doesn't really matter.
So we've got the whole district, or yeah, it's on the. So.
Somebody, I can just change it and pick one if you want me to, or whatever.
I'll make the motion to include everything.
Okay. Is there a second for the full proposal? Okay.
All right.
So now, that being said, Dr. Hildebrand inquired as to.
Well, my question is irrelevant at this point now, I guess.
Well, no, because we can still have a conversation about the other, but we need to have a motion on the floor in order to be able to have a discussion.
Yeah.
So now we have that, and we can discuss.
So I guess my question is
that's fine.
Doing everything in all the schools would obviously be the best thing to do. It sounded like this is a new venture for them, right? And so is it better to concentrate their efforts at the junior, senior, intermediate, Rankin, and maybe eventually expand it out if we use the equity teams that you talked about, or
that would be my Lisa's closer to it, so I'll let her talk. That would be my thought.
Right. So when we initially met in March, we were like, okay, so we have
the whole buildings, and we were speaking on it, but we realized it's a huge task. So then we were like, well, do we focus on the little ones or the big ones? And we said, well, probably right now it would be best kind of like that 4 to 6 range in terms of the intermediate and the high school, but then also Rankin, because that is that's a capstone that we have to work on, and I don't want to not include those teachers in that training as well. They did say that if we just do the intermediate Rankin in the high school, that they would kind of sporadically go to Wilkins, Edgewood, and the academy and kind of do some PD there as well. So we're kind of at a conundrum where do we want to start it just with half the school district and see how that looks and get a good model so then we can come back with the elementary teachers, or do we want to do it all at once? I think in discussion, we kind of want to focus it more that 4 to 12 with kind of like sprinkles of PD, if you will, at the primary level, because I don't see this as a 1-year thing.
Sure.
This is, and when we discussed it with both professors, this is a long range thing that we want to go on. So, not saying that we need a commitment to keep it going, but if the premise is, let's just keep doing this for a span of, I would say, 3 to 5 years to really get it, then you can start this year with just intermediate high school and Rankin. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, Mr. Johnson, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing, the only thing I would add to that is that even though they say they can do the whole district, you always wonder whether or not they're going to have enough staff for it. I would rather have a limited resource, which is their staff, available for that smaller cross-section, and then we know we're getting good penetration that way, than to try to have a limited number of staff doing everybody, and we're only getting it done haphazardly. More staff concentrated in the fewer buildings are going to be able to impact more teachers, which is ultimately what we're trying to do.
I think it's something that is necessary. I just don't understand the platform in which it'll be rolled out that's going to be expansive throughout the district. I also don't understand if she's writing for an IRB, then doesn't that label it as a research project? So then it's almost like, are we partners in this, or are we paying for their services and they're still getting grant money to do the research, to gather this data and gather the results, and then at some point in time publish them later? So I'm a little confused about what are we paying for, and what's the total price? What's the total price of the package? Because I see 4 or 5 prices here.
What I had was the entire district was $140,000 just doing the.
So everything's broken down individually, and then they give you a total.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you raised. I think that was the point Alicia and I talked about, was, are we just subsidizing their research? But the original proposal was actually significantly higher than this, so they did bring it down. My thought is that the research part of it, I think, is going to be more geared along the lines of measuring the outcomes and measuring the baselines, because that's not work that they've done before. But the actual work of providing the professional development to the teachers and so forth, and the administrators and anybody else that they choose to, is something they've done already. That's where the cost comes in, and the research is more around, because, as she said, it's never been done before in a school setting. What are the outcomes going to look like? What should they look like? What should we be trying to accomplish? So I think it's a hybrid project, certainly, where they're doing some thing that they already know how to do well, and we're going to pay for that, and other things that are going to be pure research or predominantly research.
But I think that's the issue. I think the issue is we don't have an expectation then. If this is something they've never done before, right, and it becomes a research project for them also on us, it seems like it'd be more in. It seems like we should have a partnership, and then we allow them to have access to our data, which is valuable for what they're going to do, and they could do this in other districts at some other time. We can be the model, but we could be a partnership. Why are we paying for those services when they're going to use the data and actually make money, or be able to make money in the future, because they could say, well, these are our results from this diverse district. So I'm trying to understand how this is all going to come together, but I think the training is vital for our district.
Well, and that's actually another reason why we thought start smaller, because why, at least on a smaller scale, that's what you're talking about is a more controllable factor than it is if we do the entire district. And I don't have a great answer to you. I mean, I think that's something that she should probably answer. I can only go back.
You did ask though, and she said she wouldn't use the information without our permission.
Right. Yeah.
That was brought up. No, I understand. No, I understand what you're saying.
Well, can we use this? Then, whereas we funded their opportunity to gather our data.
Well, I think we're not funding them to gather data. We're funding them to provide professional development.
But we don't know. Right. But we don't know what we're paying for and what our expectation of the results are, because Dr. Hildebrand asked
I
her.
hear that.
How do we measure if this is working?
In terms of a long-term project, no, they don't know what the results are going to be. But they have done these training sessions. They're experts in the field, right? They've done these kinds of trainings before. They have had good outcomes, and like you even said, we have nowhere to go but up, right? So, we're paying for their professionalism and their expertise.
So can I ask sounds like we have a two-part problem. One is we need to pay for the training. Is this a bargain for this type of training, or is this super expensive?
Sounds like
for
it's
this?
never been done on this scale.
I'm sure there are already companies that do implicit bias training.
Of course.
Right. So what's the going rate for that? And
so, like she said, it's kind of outside the realm of education for now, because I think in this country this is all moving towards that arena. But when you look at other professional development type pieces, we looked at a lady who was going to do restorative practices, and for what, Mr. Johnson, 3 months of work, she was going to charge us $10,000, and we were like, for what? So when you look for outside organizations and you're paying for travel, lodging, things like that. So there's all types of kind of things that go on when you kind of do this consulting, if you will, type project. So being it's the University of Pittsburgh, being it's the Center for Urban Edge, you work for Pitt, I don't have to sell it to you, but that type of thing, for me personally, I think that spending the money on that 4 to 12 type thing and seeing the results, we're gonna get results. For me, and I questioned their data collection. I said, we have that data. I said, you don't have to get it. I was like, Jim Clausen can get it for you, but that type of thing. But I think in terms of their data is looking at that observable data, that qualitative data that we can't provide for them. And so for me, and then that coaching aspect. So I think, and she had said the IRB was because this is kind of uncharted territory.
Right, and IRB, I know. You give somebody a survey, you might need an IRB for it.
Exactly.
Right, it's kind of hit or miss.
What's attracted me to it is we've looked in the past. I happen to personally believe that the implicit bias issue is probably the number one thing that is at the root of what's happened here in the last 18 months, and that's we don't have a good understanding and don't have a way of approaching it. But if you look around what's available, there just isn't anything. Nobody wants to tackle it. These are the few people that have said, we'll sit down and approach this problem with you. And it isn't being done. It isn't being done anywhere in education. Not just not in Woodland Hill, but not anywhere. So,
can we do this? Can we table this? Can we table this and ask them to come back to a committee meeting so we can ask more questions? Because I think she said something interesting that Mr. Belmont brought out, that if she's training people to have an equity department, and he just stated he wanted equity to be one of the main things within her next budget, then why don't we talk to her about maybe doing some hybrid? She can do implicit bias training and then also help develop our equity department, which then that definitely justifies payment because she's doing us a service and helping us to create a department we don't even have yet, and also training individuals for that department, part of that. So we can probably, obviously they don't have a model because it's all new. So we can mold it to fit what we need in our district, and it parallels some of the goals that the board has with the equity training. And then I can see why, and then I can see the cost factor. it just seems like we can ask more questions and really fine tune what we're getting, how it's being implemented, and where we're going with it for our future, because we all agree that the training itself is vital and it's needed within our district.
Can I ask, as a follow-up to that, they were going to start like immediately, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the only problem is that
if we table it, it's done because we won't be meeting until June.
Yeah, the school won't be in session until.
Yeah, they won't.
They won't be able to get started before next year.
And you have to recess the meeting and make sure we had enough people present at the committee to be able to vote on it.
I think your idea of asking them to comment on our like equity piece, framework, director, all that kind of stuff is a good idea, but I see that as an add-on. I don't see that as a bundle.
But I still don't know what the initial research or what the initial training, how the training is going to be implemented, what type of impact it may have in our classrooms, what type of impact it may have with our kids, what type of impact it may have with our teachers, when there could be possibly pushback, and how are we dealing with the pushback, because now we're adding somebody within our classrooms to evaluate a teacher, and then now they're looking at what's their credibility.
Not evaluating teachers.
Why aren't they evaluating teachers?
Right.
Did I miss that somewhere? I'm sorry, I may have just missed that.
Well, they're going to observe.
They're observing to evaluate and then give recommendations right after class is over.
Right.
That's why I asked her, how are you going to interrupt?
Yeah. I'm
Well, she said she wasn't
hearing
going to
the
do
word
that.
evaluation.
They're going to interrupt class. I mean, they're not evaluating in the contractual sense of the word.
Right,
I think the word she used was observing.
Yeah.
We can observe classes anytime we want, as long as they have clearances. We can do that. That's something we have the right as management to do.
But we're observing and then also giving instruction. She specifically said after class if she witnessed something that was a training issue, she would give instruction on that.
Sure, but I
and
think
I can see her teachers pushing back on that because it's one of the situations where, okay, what are we trying to accomplish here?
But I think that was brought up in the context of what do you do if you see something really, really bad, outlandish, and she said, in that case, then I would bring it up after class. But I think if we're shooting at the norm, what's the norm going to be, which is just going to be, I'm going to collect some information. Then when we get together in professional development session, I will feed that back to you, my observations of what I saw and done in a non-evaluative way as a tool for professional development for the teachers. That situation you talked about happened, but I think that was somebody was posing the question of what if we saw just something really, really horrendous. And she said, then I would stop after class. But that was not going to be the norm, I don't believe, what she was looking at, or what they were planning to do.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just giving my input. I had the same trouble with the counselor that we had. That I still don't know what we paid for after her 2 months of service for $14,000. We haven't had a report back yet.
She's giving
Well,
it to me. I spoke to
She's
her
been doing a
last
lot of this kind of work, actually.
But in this situation, we're talking about $150,000, and we wanted to be pushed to make a decision, and we still don't get to ask further questions on how this is going to. I'm just giving more information, so we can vote and do whatever. But
Dave, you bring up some legit points. The one question I asked the doctor was, how she built her equity teams, and she indicated that volunteers stepped forward, and then it grew from there. So, from a starting point perspective, I felt better about that. If you have people willing to step in, so you don't have that initial standoffishness or what are you doing here kind of thing. I get that. So I felt better when she shared that. The other point you made that I'm still curious about is, does the university get research money as well? Okay, so we can set that part aside. There's not that in play. Okay, thank you.
So from a collective bargaining agreement issue, so this is not going to impinge on the collective bargaining agreement if they're in there observing?
I spoke to Adam, like I do, because before I do any of this, and I know you guys got an email response from them, so I talked to him about it, and it was like, we're going to provide this because we need it, and it was kind of agreed upon that if this is something that is good and is, people are doing it that aren't us or that it would be fine. They keep asking for trainings. They keep asking for this. And so now we're going to hand them a training that is sustainable.
I mean, contractually, we have provisions in the contract that says if we provide 24-hour notice, they don't have the right to say no. We won't let somebody in. I think the only arrangement we would need to have that's kind of explicitly stated is that this is non-evaluative feedback. That this is not going to be used as I guarantee the question that's going to come up is this going to impact my final evaluation for the year? And as long as we say this will not be used evaluatively, so it's not going to impact whether you get a satisfactory or unsat, I don't think that they have any. That there's anything.
And I think, and for me personally, I think as it starts, there will be an administrator with them as we start it, not putting them in the rooms by themselves, so everyone can kind of see, what's going on in there. I wouldn't shove them right in there right away without an administrator.
Was there also a phrase in their contract about implementing recommendations from the commission, from the CBA?
I don't remember
recall.
that. But
I know we talked about it, but maybe it wasn't in there. I'll have to go back and look at that.
I don't remember.
I don't recall.
Not in the CBA, I don't think.
No, not in the CBA. No.
Okay.
That was too far
We
ahead.
started on that before it existed.
Yeah.
So if a teacher says no, how do we deal with that? If a teacher says I don't want anybody in my classroom,
Isn't this like staff development for our staff?
It's professional development.
It's professional development.
And the other thing is the calendar as far as teacher education days. Is that conducive to the 2 meetings?
Yeah,
a
and they
month
can use
thing?
the 45-minute a week thing, break them up into smaller groups. But there is a PD day every month this year when we switched up the calendar.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, a teacher can't decline to be observed by an administrator. Bottom line, they cannot say no, I don't want you. And an administrator can.
These
bring
individuals aren't our administrators.
No, but if the administrator's with them, they can't say no. An administrator can take somebody with them into the classroom. As long as that person has clearances and isn't disrupting the classroom, I, as an administrator, can take somebody into a classroom observation. The teacher can't say no.
I'm totally on board with the idea. I'm just unfamiliar with the process.
I understand.
And unfortunately, the process is what gets us from A to B. So that's the most important part for me.
Gotcha.
So I haven't heard the process yet, even when asked, that I was comfortable that can be sustained throughout our district, or even at little intervals in our district where it can be worth the cost. I would like to just ask more questions.
Sure.
Dave, on page 10, you had me looking when you brought up the point initially. It does give a research plan. It kind of gives you a timeline as to how things unfold, so that does help.
Okay, and keep in mind, I'm just getting this today because
I just saw it when.
That is on us that you didn't have that to look at because you could have asked more focused questions.
Correct.
I'd like to draw attention to page 7 with the selected training modules that are a bit clearer about what we can expect and the things that they'll be talking about. And I just think those are very helpful. And the year-long practice there as well on page 8.
Page 8?
Mm-hmm. It's a very brief summary, but...
I don't know if this is worth asking, but is it possible to do like a contingent approval or something, John?
No.
I don't see how.
I don't see how you.
I just thought I'd ask.
No. Could we just table it and come back for committee?
Would
have our 5?
Is there a motion to table?
Yeah.
What? I motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll have a vote on the motion to table.
I know.
When?
I don't know.
That's then
Table
contingent.
until when?
Till committee?
We can discuss that. We can discuss whether we can recess and reconvene sometime next week. At one of the committee meetings, if people are available to do that, we can discuss it and see if Dr. Dorsey is available to come and talk to us at that time. And if so, then we can see about getting our questions answered and addressing them at that point. And considering the motion at that time. If people are amenable to that. Or we can bring it back in June and do that then. But that we will lose the opportunity to then have evaluations for the end of the school year at that point.
I say we recess the meeting, and then that way we're conscientious of Mrs. Went's timeline and actually implementing, because I do think this is something healthy for our district. And I don't want to miss the opportunity. I just want more information at this price tag. What are we getting?
Okay. So let's have the vote on the motion to table first, and then we can discuss a recess and reconvene situation. Okay.
Dr. Hildebrand?
No.
Did you say no?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Strasbaugh?
No.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yep.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
No.
No. Mr. Belmont?
No.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
4-4.
So in light of that,
The motion fails.
motion fails because it's 4-4. So we can reconsider the original motion, which was from Mr. Belmont to consider the entire district cost at $140,000.
You want to have a vote on that?
We can vote on that, or we can make an amendment to that to consider the smaller option.
I'd like to make an amendment for the smaller option, the lesser option.
Mr. Belmont, are you amenable to that as a friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay. That being the case, we'll consider the $97,000 option that would include the junior, senior high school, intermediate school, and rank and promise schools in the proposal. So, with that, we'll have, unless there's any further discussion on this question, we'll have a vote on that.
Ms. Ellickson?
Abstain.
Mr. Graves?
No.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
No.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Passes 5-2 to
5-2-1.
5-2-1. Okay. Regardless of that, I think we should still have additional conversation with Dr. Dorsey
Would you
about
like
what
me
the
to see if
program.
you come Tuesday
That
for
would be
committee?
fantastic.
Don't see.
Yes.
Tara would like to
If
have
they're
it.
getting large, do you want to, is 6, or do you want to try to, because that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
I mean, just because of the level of questions, do you want me to see if she's available Tuesday, possibly at 5? I don't want to, I know it's Wednesday and you don't want to change times, but, we've been running long lately.
So my question is, how do we approve something and then we start asking the questions afterward? I thought
We can always come back and amend it.
I thought we were supposed to ask the questions first and then get a good understanding of what we're purchasing and then approve it if we like it. That's just, love the idea, but I just don't like how we did it.
Again, you had the same example.
I still think we would ask her to be there just because there's enough board members who would like to ask some clarifying questions. I respect what Mr. Gray's saying, but I think we can ask her to be there anyway. There's an opportunity to ask clarifying questions.
Okay.
Why are we approving something we need clarification on?
You can still ask clarifying questions. You can still ask.
But why do we go through the process of approving something that it's
I didn't know,
fuzzy
Mr. Brace. I didn't
and we
know.
need clarification on? I think sometimes that's the issue. The issue is we go forward without having a concise understanding of the ramification or the implications in what we're voting for. And sometimes that's through lack of information, whether it's we're redoing the cafeteria now because we had bad information. Now we have to pay another $9,100 to make it right. We're talking $97,000. That is the price of a teacher's salary, in which this gentleman would like to add a teacher to kindergarten or first grade. It should be taken seriously, and we should have a clarification on exactly what we're voting for. I love the idea. It's needed in this district wholeheartedly. Our teachers need some type of bias training. We need bias training. But to vote for something and we're not clear what we're getting on, I have an issue with that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Move on.
Yep.
Action item 13.2, permission to accept 2018-2019 Waterfront Learning Services contract at a cost not to exceed $25,505 plus professional development with funding coming from the ASN 284648. Proposed contracts attached.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion on this?
Can we get a clarification on
Yeah, yeah.
So Edgenuity is the platform in which we do our cyber program. So this is just the cost up to 500 seat licenses. We also use the credit recovery program, the Edgenuity program for our credit recovery, which our students do throughout the school year. And we've also been able to offer it to those students. Now, actually, we're identifying lists of students that we will have online to do a credit recovery class at no charge to the kids. Now, granted, it is a virtual platform, and some kids, that's just not the way they learn, but we are able to offer a credit recovery at no cost to the kids throughout the school year and in the summer. And like I said, this is what we use for Edgenuity, that right now we have about 70 kids in our cyber program, and we're looking to grow that. So it's $25,000 for the whole entire curriculum, up to 500 seats, so we can use it however we want. That's the lowest, is 500 seats. So we actually can use it. Teachers can supplement their instruction using the platform as well.
Any questions?
And it's only K through 6.
Well, we use it 7 through 12, but they do have 6th grade courses in it, so right now it's 6 through 12. But,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, how many students were we looking at using it? You said you have 500 seat licenses.
So, so we have 70 kids using it right now in terms of WOA. Credit recovery kids, I used about 50 to 70 seats last year. They all didn't finish in the summer, but we utilized those seats. I can get you the numbers on how many kids are in credit recovery right now during the school year. I'm not sure. I'd have to get with our guidance counselors. But this is the lowest they can give you.
The number doesn't change.
And then we also use it as ranking as well as part of the transition to and from the high school.
Right. Well, we are going to have to figure out what's going on because these all say K6.
The attached proposal is for K to 6.
We must have the wrong document because these all say K6.
Pricing WFL?
Well, it says elementary options K through 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the title of the file says elementary.
And every price point is K to 6.
Yeah. Should we?
I can look at my email real quick because it was given to me.
No.
We haven't seen it, though.
Okay.
We haven't had a chance to review it.
I mean, it's fine. Our license goes to the end of the summer, so
we
we
should
can
table
just
it.
get back.
Bring
Yeah,
it
just
back
table
in
it.
June.
Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Ms. Johnson. Can we have a vote on the motion to table?
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Move to section 14, action item 14.1. Request permission to approve the high school French club to begin planning for a student trip to France, Spain, I didn't see Spain was added, and the Benelux countries during the summer of 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbaugh, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any discussion or questions about the trip?
Need chaperones?
Yeah, great question. Great question.
You want to be one, you mean, or no?
Not really.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Go there, not as
I'll have to check the policy, but I think you have to approve the chaperones for a trip like that too. I'm not sure.
No, I'd like to go, but not as a chaperone. No thanks.
13 hours.
All right, seeing no further questions or discussion, please call the vote.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Action item 14.2, request approval to purchase identity theft protection for identified former employees at a cost of up to $10,000 as per the attached proposal.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion on the proposal?
Do we want to have Ms. Lenz highlight anything?
Well, I think I could probably, you want me to speak to that? I think I probably
Go ahead.
is. We have already sent out letters to active and current employees and active retirees, meaning people who are still active in our benefit system, giving them information on how to obtain the ID theft protection services. So those letters should start hitting their mailboxes tomorrow and the day after. We've also got seniority books from far back into the 80s. We're going to use those to identify employees who could potentially have been affected by this, and we're going to send them a notice similar to the one we sent to the current employees, advising them that there may have been a possibility of an exposure, but just out of an abundance of caution and only that, we're going to offer them the theft protection that you're looking to approve here, and provide instructions for them on how that can be set up. And then we think that should address the concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote.
Ms. Elkson?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes.
Thank you for doing that. Finally, action item 14.3, approve the furlough non-renewal of professional teaching staff and support positions for 18-19 school year. I spoke to this in the update, but I want to emphasize again, this is not indicating we will furlough anybody. It gives us the authority to furlough staff as part of the budget process. Should that become necessary under school code, we have to have the board has to pass a resolution allowing administration to do that, and that's what this is.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Strasbaugh. Any questions or discussion on this motion? Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, that'll move us to old business. Is there any old business? Okay. Any new business?
I just want to mention one thing. I just wanted to make people aware for the policy committee next week. We're going to be discussing cell phone policies, school uniforms, and swearing. Just to give a heads up to folks, that'll be included.
Is that Tuesday or Wednesday, Mike?
Policy will be Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
Great question.
In the interest of time, will the board indulge me in
Yes.
skipping committee reports this month? Okay, we'll note that those are available. Make sure that they are available going forward. Which brings us to public communication. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time? Okay. Please feel free. As a reminder, as with the comments at the beginning of the meeting, the public is welcome and invited to speak. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please give your name and address, and questions will be addressed following the meeting.
Thank you. 2 minutes is not enough, but for the sake of time, I could be here all night. I'm Dana Bowie. I live on 1st Street, Braddock, PA, 15104. I have several concerns. I have 7 children that pass through Woodland Hills, and 6 out of the 7 always come home and say they're not learning anything. That concerns me. So I want to know if the board and the school district is open to different changes for the kids, different subjects that meets the criteria, but also interested children. As you know, we're 79% predominantly African American. But we'll use it for the sake of record. That to it's statistically known that children by the age of 15 do not fall asleep before 11 o'clock. So why is school starting at 7 a.m.? Have they? I know I've heard that you've changed it about a half an hour. There's sorry, it got wet. But on www.startschoollater.net, they stated insufficient sleep in teens is associated with obesity, migraines, and immune system disruption, and with health risk behaviors including smoking, drinking, stimulant abuse, physical fighting. That's what really caught my eye. Physical inactivity, depression, and suicidal tendencies. Like, I know when I was younger, school started at 8 o'clock. So is the board, these are a lot of rhetorical questions right now, but have you all opened your minds to start school later? Start school after Labor Day. It doesn't make sense to me as a parent, send the kids to school 2 days, and then they have a 3-day weekend. Like, well, I hear all these things, but what is being done to reach our children in the later years? I've been up to the school so much this year, I could strangle my child for fighting. Miss Nagy has been wonderful. I don't know why she's not the principal. Mr. Nagy, Mr. Mack knows me from a long time, from all my children. Mr. Chansey, everybody up there has a passion to help the children, but as well as there's a lot of disrespectful children. There's a lot of teachers who seem like they just shun the kids. Like, what is being done to change? I think the equity would be great once y'all figure out whatever has to be done. Like, there's a lot of training that needs to go for the teachers, the staff. Like, I think you all need more diversity in the different races of teachers. Hire some of the parents from the community, because 9 times out of 10, we know the children. When I walk through those hallways, them kids are like, my head is spinning because someone's coming up to me to hug me. And I'm like, where are you supposed to be at? Get to your class. And they're going. One lady, I was in my daughter's math class. She was like, can I hire you? Can I follow you? You know, I want to see a change, because when I first moved here 19 years ago, Woodland Hills was like the number one school district to get into. People were lying, and I know people who were lying, using addresses just to get into school. I would like to see that again. So what is being done to change our later years of kids? We're losing them in 7th and 8th grade, 9th grade. Why not change and get into class 4 minutes from the other side of that building? Ain't happening. Y'all, there's just so much that needs to change. I don't have enough time to talk about it, but what are we doing to reach our kids now is my biggest question to you all. Thank you. And lastly, why not like 9th grade hall? Put them way in the back when they start. They got to get to the front. Give them some motivation. And I'm be in that front hallway come senior year. Like, I don't know if y'all have the staff or whatever has to be done. Smaller classrooms. There's no control. The teachers don't have no control, and it's like they're scared to say something to the kids. I don't know. I'm just asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to address the board? Good evening.
I'll make this fast. Thornika Reed, 134 Laniki Street, Wilkins. I want to say I am in favor of the implicit bias assessment. I don't think it's a good idea to start that at the end of the school year, and I'm not sure about the vote as well. That wasn't enough information about the program or whatever she wants to do, really, for a vote, in my opinion. But also, many of the parents of children who have wraparound services, if you actually reach out to them and talk to them, they actually use therapists in some classes to monitor staff. So I'm also not in favor of a equity officer right now. I work in Pittsburgh Public Schools, and we have one there it isn't very useful. I think what was proposed this evening is useful, because you need someone in the classrooms observing. I'm actually support staff, so I'm like a BSc. So when you're in a room with a person for after about 2 weeks or so, they forget you're in the room, and that's when you get to see the real issues are. So I'm in favor of that. That would give a lot of parents peace of mind. And the best teachers, they actually welcome that feedback. So they will ask, what they can do from that person to improve their classroom. And also, there was some talk about charter schools and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people don't like charter schools, and we want the money to stay in the district. But having a parent of one of my kids goes to a charter school, and one is actually in a high school. But I understand why parents send their kids to the charter schools. And if you think about it, with the issues that we've had in the past year in the district's voting record on problematic staff, that's why a lot of parents send their kids to charter schools. So I will, and I won't get into too much, but I will say that I have had the opportunity to go into neighborhoods in the district to get petitions signed. Twice it was because of issues in the district. But I went to like Rankin first. Go there, talk to parents, find out why they send their kids to charter schools. They'll tell you. If you improve the district, they'll bring their kids back. They want their kids to go to public schools. There's a reason they don't. So go there, reach out to them, and ask them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
I do have one thing, Ms. Glasser, if I may. Tomorrow marks the 1-year anniversary. We lost Paul Serback, so hopefully the board and administration, everybody in the district will take a moment tomorrow to remember a great teacher that we lost a year ago, tomorrow.
Indeed. Okay. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you all. See you next month.
We'll see you next week.
Well, next week and tomorrow.